Chapter 390. Lei Xingfeng first commanded the metal bugs to climb up the slope. The metal bugs climbed up nimbly. After a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "There shouldn't be any problems. Wait a moment, I'll send the steel puppets up. These things are big targets. Once they enter, they will be triggered if there are any attacks." Jean Dias said, "All right, that's safer." The steel mannequin beast was extremely heavy, and as it climbed up the slope, it made a rustling sound. Seeing the steel mannequin beast struggling to climb up, Xian Feng spoke, "I hope there's something we need inside." There were 3 parts to the high wall that had collapsed. The largest gap was closest to Lei Xingfeng, so the 10 steel puppets climbed up along this gap. After a while, the metal bugs entered first, followed by the 10 steel puppets. Finally, Lei Xingfeng drove the 2 metal spiders to climb up. Although the spiders were extremely heavy, they had 8 legs and were quite agile. They climbed over in a short while. Lei Xingfeng realized that the scene behind the high wall was a mess. Most of the buildings had collapsed, and it was another ruin. He was very familiar with this scene. The last time he had gone to the forbidden area, he had seen most of the dilapidated scenes. The 10 steel puppets stopped not far away. As they had not received any orders, they were all on guard. As for the dozen or so metal bugs, they had already spread out. Their basic order was to scout. Without any orders, they would run around. Everything was withered. The buildings had collapsed into piles of rubble. Only a few stone towers were relatively intact. Upon seeing the stone towers, Lei Xingfeng's eyes lit up. He suddenly remembered the sky evolution crystal he had obtained in the forbidden area. That thing was very rare and was an excellent source of energy. He had obtained it from the tower back then. Jean Dias said, "I wonder how many treasures are buried in these ruins." Lei Xingfeng immediately laughed and said, "Don't even think about it. 99% of these houses are empty. Whether they collapse or not, there won't be any good gains." Jean Dia was stunned. He said, "How is that possible? So many experts wanted to come to the forbidden grounds, but they were all empty-handed. What's the point of coming here?" Lei Xingfeng said, "The forbidden lands here were probably left behind after they moved. There's a limit to what they left behind. We're just picking up scraps. We're just gambling on what they left behind. There are also some large forbidden lands that have some good stuff sealed away. Those Tao Lords and Heavenly Monarchs are specifically looking for those sealed items." Jean Dias said, "I'm afraid those things aren't that easy to obtain, right?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "That's for sure. The things sealed, they're usually the core secrets of the forbidden grounds. I don't think anyone has succeeded." That's not right. This is probably the reason why the Tao Lord has advanced. Perhaps a Tao Lord has succeeded, which is why he was able to advance. Jean Dias said, That's so difficult. If only this was the core area of the forbidden area." Lei Xingfeng said, "Stop dreaming. If it's so easy to enter the core area, everything would have been taken away long ago. It would be difficult for us to even find some leftovers, let alone a feast." Jean Dia was unconvinced. "I don't believe it. Let's look around here. Hee, maybe we will find something." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's wait for the little bug to come back. In the forbidden grounds, there are all kinds of traps and all kinds of humanoid beasts. The last time we went to the forbidden grounds, we obtained a silver humanoid beast and 6 gold humanoid beasts. If it weren't for the founder and the lack of energy of the humanoid beasts, we would have been done for." Jean Dia knew how powerful the humanoid beasts were. He couldn't even defeat a silver humanoid beast, let alone a gold one. He nodded and said, "Okay, let's wait." Lei Xingfeng drove the little bug with all his might. This place wasn't big, and the little bug's speed was relatively fast. Its 8 little claws moved quickly, and its speed was comparable to an ordinary person running at full speed. Soon, all kinds of information came back. Half an hour later, Jean Dias said, "How is it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "The little bug is back. It doesn't seem to have found any danger." He looked up at the stone tower in the distance and said, "It's just that the 3 stone towers haven't been explored. 3 little puppets went to explore and haven't come out yet. Forget it. Let's not wait anymore. Let's search this building first." Jean Dias said, "Isn't this place empty? Why do we still need to search?" Without waiting for Lei Xingfeng to speak, the black bird said, "Stupid. Even if it's empty, we still need to search. If there's something good, we'll regret it to death if we miss it. Gah, even birds know this. Don't you know?" Jean Dia looked at the blackbird and was speechless. He was directly despised by the bird. He didn't know what to say, but he also thought that the blackbird was right. Originally, he just casually said it and didn't object to the search. Who knew that the blackbird would despise him? Lei Xingfeng couldn't stop laughing. He said, "Bird Bude, you're getting more and more demonic. How do you know so much?" The blackbird gave a proud caw and said, "Birds are smart. This bird is a super big bird with wisdom. This bird believes that this bird will definitely spread its wings and fly high." Gah! This was the first time the blackbird had said something like an oath. Jean Dia said, "Big bird? Forget it. It's only this big." As he said that, he raised his little finger and made a gesture of the last knuckle. He meant that such a small bird had nothing to do with a big bird. The blackbird suddenly went crazy. It said, You can't hurt the bird like this. You're a bad person. You're disrespectful to the bird. You apologize," Jean Dia said without sincerity. "Oh, well, I'm sorry, little bird." The blackbird said angrily, What do you mean? What's a little bird?" "The bird you see is a big bird with invincible wisdom and wisdom. It's a bird that's still growing." Lei Xingfeng was very happy to watch the man and the bird bicker. Jean Dia curled his lips and said, "You're not afraid of the wind twisting your tongue. Just stay here. Other than eating, what else can you help a phone? I don't see any use for you. You're just a pet bird. The only difference is that pet birds can't talk. You can talk." After a series of sarcastic remarks, the blackbird suddenly went crazy. It cried out, "Gah! I'm so angry, Gah! I'm so angry. You, Jean Dia, big golden teeth, golden. Big teeth. Even if you have a few big teeth, you can't be so arrogant. You're so angry. Gah, 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 gah." It couldn't breathe and was choked until its eyes turned red. Jean Dia's nickname was Big Teeth. It was just that no one had called him that for a long time. It was quite fresh to hear it suddenly. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Uncle Jean, you're really good at talking. You made the bird Bude angry. This is rare." Jean Dia said, "That's because I didn't take it seriously. I'm ashamed to say that I actually took it seriously with the bird." Although the blackbird was randomly shouting, it noticed that it didn't scold anyone. It was extremely smart and knew that it couldn't scold anyone. It didn't matter how much it scolded. If it did, Exine Phone would definitely stop it and even punish it. However, it couldn't suppress the anger in its heart. One must know that it was of the lightning attribute and had a bad temper. It didn't have Exine Phone's ability to resolve the anger brought by the lightning attribute. It jumped on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and said, "Who's taking it seriously with you? Gah, this bird just can't bear to see your big teeth." It made this bird panic. It couldn't find a suitable point to attack, so it could only attack him personally. Jean Dia grinned and said, "I'm a human. I have teeth. Do you?" The blackbird squawked and was once again choked until its eyes turned red. Where did its teeth come from? Lei Xingfeng had to act as a peacemaker and said, Okay, let's not talk about it. Don't delay the business." The blackbird immediately took the opportunity to come down. It flatteringly combed Lei Xingfeng's hair and said, "Okay, this bird doesn't care about it." Jean Dia smiled and didn't pursue it. It was too ungentlemanly to continue to chase and beat it. After all, he didn't have much hatred for the blackbird. They just bickered with each other. In fact, this was one of the joys of being in the wild. The wild was too lonely. Bickering with birds was good for health. Lei Xingfeng said, "Right, what did you say just now? I forgot." The blackbird said, "About the search." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, Yes. Uncle Jean, this is such a big place. We can only do a simple search to see if there's anything special." Jean Dia didn't move. He said, "A phone you forgot. You still have a realm." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood. He patted his head and said, "Oh, I'm so stupid." The blackbird squawked. Of course, it didn't dare to say anything. There were a lot of people in the mirror world, not to mention normal people. Even the practitioners under Exine Phone were there, including a few disciples with good aptitudes. There were at least a few hundred practitioners, enough to search this land. Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, Uncle Jean, you go in and gather people first. I'll send them out after we gather." Jean Dia said, "No problem, I'll go." Lei Xingfeng directly put Jean Dia into the mirror realm and waited. He was not in a hurry. In this place, it should be impossible to see other cultivators. If Wu Yang was here, he would be shocked. In the forbidden area, there were actually so many people. Hundreds of cultivators participated in the search, divided into small groups. Except for the tower, which was strictly forbidden to enter, the other groups were all three-man groups. More than 100 groups were quickly cleaning and searching, looking for all the possible treasures that might appear. Lei Xingfeng, Ishanel, Jean Depan, and Jean Dia all stood aside and watched. Jean Depan was eager to try. He said, "A phone, let me go look." Jean Dia said, "What are you going to look for?" Jean Depan said, "Look in the kitchen. Look in their kitchen and see if there's anything left." Lei Xingfeng, Ishanel, and Jean Dia almost fell down. This was a building in the forbidden area. This fatty's mind was still on eating. Jean Dia let out a long sigh and said, "Go, go." Jean Depan ran out in high spirits. The blackbird said coldly. A ball rolled out. Hearing this, Ishanel couldn't help but take a step back. He would never provoke the blackbird and would directly ignore it. He knew that the blackbird had a foul mouth. Chapter 391. Jean Dia also ignored the blackbird. He knew very well in his heart that as long as he answered the blackbird words today, it meant that he was ready to bicker, so he kept his mouth shut and did not say a word. The blackbird also glanced at him strangely. It was strange in his heart. Why was this guy silent? That's right, this was a sign that Blackbird was going to bicker. Lei Xingfeng turned to look at Blackbird, amused. "Don't cause trouble." Blackbird quacked, not daring to speak. Lei Xingfeng said, "Manager AI, keep an eye here. If you find anything important, let me know as soon as possible." "Uncle Jean, let's go to the tower." Ishanel agreed and got up to leave. Lei Xingfeng said, "We sent out more than 200 steel dummies, 1 or 2 for each team. It should be enough." Jean Dia said, "Yes, if it's dangerous, just send the steel dummies in. That's much better. It can reduce accidental casualties." Lei Xingfeng said, "It's fine. Let's go to the tower. I have gold and silver dummies. They should be enough to protect us." Jean Dia smiled. "Yes, as long as it's not some random trap, it shouldn't be too dangerous. Let's go." A moment later, the two stood at the foot of the tower. It was a stone tower about 150 meters tall. It was considered an extremely tall building. The entire tower was well preserved. Although it had been eroded by time, one could still see the beauty of the building. Unlike the tower they saw in the forbidden area, this tower was better preserved. It didn't seem to have suffered any serious damage. After walking around the tower, Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia were dumbfounded. There was no door to enter. Lei Xingfeng said, "Look around. There must be an entrance." In the end, they found a door to the tower in a half-collapsed building. It was a well-preserved secret door. Lei Xingfeng recognized it. It was an extremely short-distance teleportation. It could be activated by inserting 3 rings. Lei Xingfeng observed for a moment and said, "Not only can this secret door lead to the tower, it can also lead to the other towers. There's another place. Uncle Jean, look." The logo of the tower was easy to identify, but Lei Xingfeng couldn't guess what the other strange logo represented. Jean Dia said, "Don't worry about that for now. Let's go into the tower first." Xi and Feng took out 3 rings and placed them on the door. As expected, after the last ring was placed, the door opened automatically without needing to be activated. Jean Dia said in surprise, "You can do that?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, it's best if there's a secret door in the forbidden area. We can go to many places and it's very safe. We won't trigger any traps." This knowledge had been imparted to him by Wu Yang and the others. It could be considered basic knowledge. However, Jean Dia had never heard of even the most basic knowledge. His level was not high enough, and there were many things that he did not understand. Jean Dia said, "Let's go in." Lei Xingfeng pulled him back. What a joke. Although it was safe to enter now, they couldn't be so reckless. He said, "Don't be hasty. We'll use the humanoid beasts to enter first. Lei Xingfeng commanded 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts and 1 gold-rank humanoid beast to enter. Only then did he and Jean Dia enter the secret door one after the other. Almost instantly, they stepped into the bottom floor of the tower. It was pitch black. Lei Xingfeng flew out of Lei Yin and illuminated the surroundings. The 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts had already surrounded the secret door at the bottom floor. This was a spacious area. The ceiling was about 5 to 6 meters above the ground. The area was very large. Under Lei Yin's illumination, they could vaguely see the walls. This was a circular space. Other than the secret door, there was nothing else here. It was very clean, and there was a thin layer of dust on the ground. Jean Dia pointed ahead and said, "That's the door." Lei Xingfeng shook his hand and threw out 2 metal bug puppets. The 2 fist-sized metal bug puppets rolled on the ground for a distance. With a cracking sound, 8 small claws grew out, and they quickly scratched on the ground. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia followed closely behind. Soon, they arrived at the door. Jean Dia pushed open the metal door. Only a small gap was opened, and the 2 metal bug puppets crawled out. Lei Xingfeng stopped by the door and carefully received the information transmitted by the metal bug puppets. Seeing Lei Xingfeng nod, Jean Dia immediately pushed open the metal door. The 2 of them walked out. Indeed, this was also a circular passage. Lei Xingfeng had seen this kind of structure before. He said, "Let's go." After circling once, they could enter the upper floor. Lei Xingfeng stopped at the entrance and whispered, "A humanoid beast." "Yes, it's a gold-rank humanoid beast." Jean Dia immediately became excited and said, "Capture it alive." Lei Xingfeng said, "Capture what alive? Capture a whole. Humanoid beasts are not humans." Jean Dia laughed and said, "Anyway, it's good stuff." He had seen the power of a gold-rank humanoid beast with his own eyes. It was something that could even fight a true monarch. Of course, the more the better. Lei Xingfeng released 2 more gold-rank humanoid beasts. He believed that, excluding the silver-rank humanoid beasts, 3 gold-rank humanoid beasts would be enough to subdue the guardian beasts on this floor. The 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts rushed in first, followed by the 3 gold-rank humanoid beasts. Then, Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia rushed in after them. When Lei Xingfeng saw the gold-rank humanoid beast with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be stunned. However, he reacted quickly and immediately ordered the humanoid beast to surround and attack. This gold-rank humanoid beast was slightly different from the ones he had obtained. The main difference was its decorations and appearance. This gold-rank humanoid beast was more luxurious and taller. The weapon in its hand was a long spear. As the 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts approached, the gold-rank humanoid beast turned into a flash of lightning and instantly entered the group of 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia could only watch as the 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts were sent flying. This fellow's combat power was off the charts and looked extremely terrifying. In an instant, the 3 gold-rank humanoid beasts under the command of Lei Xingfeng had already pounced on it. However, it was obvious that this luxurious humanoid beast was faster. It moved quickly and dodged continuously. Jean Dia said anxiously, "This won't do. Why is this thing so strong?" Lei Xingfeng hurriedly threw out 3 more gold-rank humanoid beasts. Then, the Lei on top of his head suddenly emitted a dazzling light. In an instant, countless bolts of lightning flew out and quickly formed a huge lightning net that fell down. With a series of crackling sounds, the lightning net fell rapidly. The lightning net wasn't used to kill the enemy, but to slow down the enemy's movements. Lei Xingfeng's current ability was already insufficient, especially in a place like this where monarchs could be easily trapped. Fortunately, the 6 gold-rank humanoid beasts were still able to deal with it. This luxurious gold-rank humanoid beast was so fast that even the 6 gold-rank humanoid beasts couldn't stop it. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng's attack was extremely important. The speed of lightning was always extremely fast. Even if the opponent was a gold-rank humanoid beast, it would still be hit by the lightning. In an instant, This gold rank humanoid beast was slowed down. As long as it was slowed down, even if it was only for a few seconds, it would be finished. Out of the 6 gold rank humanoid beasts, 2 of them instantly flashed to its side. The 2 gold rank humanoid beasts' actions were the same. They hugged each other passionately. One of them hugged its upper body, while the other hugged its lower body from behind. In the blink of an eye, they were locked in place. Then, one of the gold rank humanoid beasts hugged one of the gold rank humanoid beasts that was still waving its arm. Jean was dazzled. He couldn't help but sigh and say, "Damn it, if it were to come at me, I wouldn't even be able to dodge in time. It's too fast." Xian Feng spoke. "That's right, this gold-level mannequin beast's speed is very different. It seems to be even faster than mine." Jean looked at the struggling gold-rank humanoid beast and said, "This guy, how should we deal with it?" Lei Xingfeng had already come to the side and started to observe carefully. This gold-rank humanoid beast was a little different from the ones he had obtained. Therefore, he had to find its weakness. Soon, Lei Xingfeng discovered that although this gold-rank humanoid beast decorations were different from his own, its core was the same. He quickly found the trick and quickly took out the core. Immediately, the gold-rank humanoid beast stopped struggling. Lei Xingfeng was very experienced in reconfiguring the gorgeous gold-rank humanoid beast. He had already figured out the settings and charging of the gold-rank humanoid beast. Of course, he couldn't do in-depth repairs, but simple repairs wouldn't be a problem. He said done. As soon as he finished speaking, the gold-rank humanoid beasts immediately let go of their hands and retreated. This gorgeous gold-rank humanoid beast seemed to be puzzled. It looked back and forth and immediately stood behind Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "It's done. I have another gold-rank humanoid beast." Clack, clack, clack. Lei Xingfeng then remembered the 6 silver-rank humanoid beasts that were sent flying by the gold-rank humanoid beast. One of the silver-rank humanoid beast's legs were bent unnaturally. It was obvious that the joints were twisted. The other 5 silver-level mannequins had also suffered some damage, but luckily it wasn't too big of a problem. Xian Feng kept the 6 silver-level mannequins and released another 6 silver-level mannequins. These damaged mannequins, when he had time, he would think about how to fix them. Jean had already started searching. This level was also very big and empty. At a glance, there didn't seem to be anything. Lei Xingfeng quickly ran to the side. He had already noticed the box at the side. It was very small and inconspicuous in the corner. Jean said, "What's wrong?" "Oh, what's that?" He also saw the small box and ran over. In the corner, there was a row of 4 small boxes. Lei Xingfeng quickly opened the leftmost box. It wasn't big, 2 feet long and 1 foot wide. It was exquisitely made. Indeed, after opening it, he saw 4 grooves. To Lei Xingfeng's disappointment, the grooves were all empty. Lei Xingfeng cheered when he opened the next box. There were 4 grooves, and one of them had a Heaven's Divination crystal embedded in it. Jean also squatted down and opened the other box. He said, "It's full." Lei Xingfeng laughed. He opened the last box. There were 4 grooves, but only 2 Heaven's Divination crystals. He couldn't help but hit his hand and said, "Smelly hand, I should have let Uncle Jean open it." Sigh. After saying that, he couldn't help but laugh. 7 Heaven's Divination crystals. Chapter 392. Jean said, "Good stuff." Lei Xingfeng kept all the boxes in his hidden Luin space, including the empty box. Jean said, "I wonder how many levels there are in this tower. If there's something on every level, will be rich." Lei Xingfeng said, "Thank you for your kind words. Let's continue." Following the spiral path, the 2 continued forward. They used the metal puppet bug to scout ahead. This thing was very useful. Due to its small size, it would not trigger any attacks. After a while, Lei Xingfeng came to the entrance of this level. He continued to observe carefully. Soon, he said, "This level is empty?" Saying so, he walked in. Jean was the first to enter. Lei Xingfeng saw 3 gold puppet beasts at a glance. However, they were all sitting on the ground with their heads lowered. When Xian Feng saw clearly that it was 3 gold-level mannequins, he was so scared that his heart almost stopped beating. He now had 7 gold-level mannequins. If these 3 gold-level mannequins attacked, he wouldn't have the confidence to block them. Jean Dia also froze. He pointed at the center and said softly, "Teach 3 puppet beasts." Lei Xingfeng had already ordered the 7 gold puppet beasts to surround them. One of the 3 sitting gold puppet beasts raised its head. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia could not help but take a step back. Then, the gold puppet beast lowered its head again. Lei Xingfeng's mind flashed. He immediately understood. F***CK. It's out of energy. Sure enough, the 7 gold puppet beasts went forward to hold it down. Lei Xingfeng went forward and smiled. "This is a great deal." Jean Dia said, "Lucky, lucky." Lei Xingfeng quickly reset the settings and used the Sky Evolution Crystal to recharge. Once again, he received 3 gold puppet beasts. They were all gorgeous gold puppet beasts. They were quite different from the 6 gold puppet beasts before. The new gold puppet beasts seemed to be stronger. Soon, he found 2 boxes in the corner. Unfortunately, they were completely empty. Jean Dia said, "How stupid. If they go to the next level, we'll be in trouble." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "This is luck." If the 3 gold-level puppets had not lost their powers, he would have gone all out. He estimated that he would have lost 1 or 2 of his 7 gold-level puppets. Now that Lei Xingfeng had 10 gold beast puppets, his strength was unprecedentedly strong. He was confident that if he encountered another 3 gold beast puppets, he would be able to effortlessly subdue them. 10 gold beast puppets gave him great confidence. This time, Lei Xingfeng did not release the little bug. Instead, he directed the 10 gold-level puppets to lead the way. He felt that victory was within his grasp. There was no need to be afraid. With 10 gold-level puppets, what was there to be afraid of? Even if there were 4 gold-level puppets, 10 of them would be enough. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia leisurely followed the 10 gold-level puppets. Jean Dia smiled and said, "Let's hope there are still 3 gold-level puppets up there. This time it's just the gold-level puppets, and we've already struck gold. Whether it's for battle or protection, these things are simply too useful." Lei Xingfeng was beaming with joy. He never thought that there would be such a great harvest. Thinking about the other towers, not only did he subdue the gold-level puppets, but he also found 7 sky divination crystals. These things were simply too important. The sky divination crystals from last time were almost used up. This time, the 7 sky divination crystals were enough for him to use for a period of time. Moreover, there were still other towers that he could go to. Now, he understood that as long as there were towers, he would at least gain something. As for the other things, it would be best if he could get them. Even if he couldn't, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't regret it. The forbidden area wasn't that easy to enter. No matter what he gained, as long as he could get it, it wouldn't be a wasted trip. The 10 gold-level puppets quickly rushed to the upper floor. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia followed behind. In an instant, the entire space flickered. Then, a dazzling light lit up the entire floor. It was Lei Xingfeng's first time seeing a glowing wall. This was a huge octagonal room. In the middle stood a gold-level puppet. It lowered its head. Lei Xingfeng immediately noticed that it was different. Jean Dia also noticed the difference. He said, "This gold-level puppet," as the gold-level puppet's head was lowered, its face couldn't be seen clearly. However, this gold-level puppet was covered in purple armor. This wasn't considered special. The most special thing was that its entire body seemed to be covered in a thick layer of crystal-like material. It was like a glass gold-level puppet. It was extremely beautiful. Under the illumination of the light, its body actually glowed as if there were colors flowing on the surface of its body. It had a strange kind of beauty. Lei Xingfeng was also a little dazed. What kind of gold-level puppet was this? Jean Dia pulled Lei Xingfeng. The 2 of them retreated to the entrance. He was alarmed. This thing wasn't easy to deal with. Therefore, he protected Lei Xingfeng first. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly controlled the 10 gold-level puppets and quickly surrounded it. At this moment, the crystal-like gold-level puppet raised its head. In an instant, Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia were shocked. This wasn't a beast's head. It was a human's head. The long, crystal-like hair on the head originally looked like the hair on a beast's head. Now it looked like crystal-like hair. Lei Xingfeng was really scared. If it was just a human's head, it would be fine. However, this face was actually a woman's. It was an extremely beautiful face. However, there was a layer of transparent material on the face. It gave people the feeling that they had seen a ghost. Things that were too beautiful were completely unapproachable, especially in a place like this. Such a beautiful gold-level puppet was completely out of Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia's expectations. The 10 gold-level puppets tightly surrounded the crystal gold-level puppet. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "What should we do?" Jean Dia didn't dare to speak carelessly. This situation was a little strange. He said she didn't move. Her head moved. The crystal gold-level puppet turned its head and looked at the surrounding puppets. The corner of its mouth suddenly twitched, revealing a mocking smile. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, I saw her smile. Is she smiling? Jean Dia said with certainty, "That's right. She's smiling. So beautiful." Even if it was a mocking smile, it still made people feel that it was shockingly beautiful. Suddenly, the crystal gold-level puppet spoke. Its voice was very gentle, but Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia were immediately dumbfounded. This was because they couldn't understand what the crystal gold-level puppet was saying. Lei Xingfeng braced himself and said, "What did you say?" The crystal gold-level puppet said, This is Tong Yu. Who are you? How dare you come to Karm's garden?" Lei Xingfeng said doubtfully, "Tong Yu? Karm's garden?" Jean Dia said in shock, Isn't she a puppet? She can actually speak." Lei Xingfeng also reacted. She could actually speak and obviously had intelligence. This wasn't a natural person, but a puppet. How advanced was the technology needed to make such a puppet? The crystal gold-level puppet seemed to be a little confused. She reached out to stroke her hair and said, "Strange. Could it be that everyone is back? That's not right. It seems to have been a long, long time. Why did you bring so many strong men?" The gold-level puppets were strong men. Lei Xingfeng didn't know what to do. Should he capture her or continue talking? He instinctively felt that this puppet wasn't easy to fight. It was this intuition that made him not dare to directly give the order to capture her. The crystal gold-level puppet continued to ask, "Hey, why did you bring so many strong men?" Lei Xingfeng said, Are you a human or a puppet?" There was no helping it. This woman was too human-like. Whether it was her tone, expression, or actions, other than her crystal-like body, everything else was the same as a human. There was no trace of stiffness at all. The crystal gold-level puppet said, "Puppet? What is that?" "I'm Jing Zia. I'm not a puppet." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood. This was obviously a homonym of exquisite. He was almost certain that this was the puppet's bad taste. However, he also had a headache. How could he subdue this crystal gold-level puppet, especially since she had intelligence? "Hello, I'm Lei Xingfeng. This is Jean Dia." He greeted her first. As for the consequences, he didn't have time to think too much. Jing Zia glanced at the gold-level puppets surrounding them and said, "Are you planning to attack?" Lei Xingfeng started to have a headache. Should he fight or should he not fight? He was a little embarrassed and said, Can we talk peacefully?" He felt that he was too weak to say this. Jing Zia's expression was cold as she said, "You are an intruder now." Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia's hair stood on end. This woman's voice was too cold, as if she was talking about something unimportant. Although Lei Xingfeng was nervous, he was not afraid. He said, "Oh, what do you want?" Jing Zia smiled faintly and said, "Catch you." Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and put Jean Dia into the mirror world. He also planned to hide in the mirror world, but even so, within a second, Jing Zia suddenly appeared in front of him and reached out to grab his neck. She was so fast that Lei Xingfeng didn't even have time to react. Jing Zia's expression was cold as she said, "Now you are my captive. Any resistance will take your life." Lei Xingfeng also said calmly, "Are you going to kill me?" Jing Zia said, "No, I don't have the right to kill, but I have the right to catch you. Come with me to the Elders' Assembly." Lei Xingfeng was stunned. The Elders' Assembly? This place has become a ruin. Where's the elders' assembly? An idea flashed through his mind. He originally planned to move into the mirror world in an instant to get rid of Jing Zia's control. But when he heard this, he stopped. Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, I will go with you to the elders' assembly." "Well, you can let go of me. I won't run away." Jing Zia nodded and said, "You can't run away either." She spoke confidently because after interacting with Exine Feng, she immediately understood that this man was extremely weak, even weaker than the Hercules. She couldn't understand how he could command the 10 Hercules. Lei Xingfeng reached out to touch his neck. When his neck was grabbed just now, he felt that he was on the verge of death. He knew that if this woman wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as turning over her hand. She was too strong. He believed that even Wu Yang might not be able to protect him in front of her. Chapter 393. After putting away the 10 gold-level puppets, Lei Xingfeng simply let go. He was confident that he could escape as long as the other party did not immediately kill him. After all, he had the mirror realm and could hide in it in an instant. Of course, there was a big flaw in using the mirror realm. He would come out wherever he entered. Only when he advanced to the monarch level would he be able to use the secret door to enter and leave from another place. Going up the passage, Jing Zia and Lei Xingfeng walked side by side. Entering the next floor, Exine Feng immediately noticed a gold-level mannequin beast, but had already used up all of its energy and was sitting on the ground. Exine Feng reached out his hand and instantly sucked the gold-level mannequin beast into his mirror dimension. Jing Zia looked at Lei Xingfeng with some confusion and asked, "Why do you need so many strongmen?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "I like to collect them." Jing Zia shook her head in confusion and said, "What's so good about collecting strongmen? They can only do rough and tiring work." Lei Xingfeng could not help but smile bitterly. Rough and tiring work. This was a battle treasure. Continuing to go up, Lei Xingfeng put anything of value into the mirror realm along the way. The strange thing was that Jing Zia did not stop him at all. Instead, she just looked at him coldly. Soon, the two of them arrived at the room at the top of the tower. There was also a short-distance transmission door here. Jing Zia reached out and touched the door. A layer of ripples appeared on the door, and the door was activated. Zhang Junya muttered, "It's strange. There should be someone guarding this place. Why is it empty?" Lei Xingfeng looked at her with some amusement and thought, "Does she not know that there are no humans in the forbidden area?" Jing Zia glanced at Lei Xingfeng and said, "You go in first." Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse and stepped into the secret door, followed by Jing Zia. It was a small space with a secret door. Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia walked out of it one after another. In an instant, the surroundings lit up. It was quiet. There was a layer of ashes on the ground. It could be seen that this place had been very clean before. Jing Zia was stunned when she walked out of the secret door. She looked around in disbelief. After a while, she asked, "Where is he?" Lei Xingfeng remained silent. Jing Zia said, "That's strange. It's impossible for there to be no one here. This is the entrance of the Council of Elders. How could there be no one guarding it?" There was a trace of panic in her voice. Lei Xingfeng looked on coldly. He certainly understood why this human-like crystal doll was panicking. Jing Zia quickly opened the door and walked straight out, ignoring Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng followed her out of the door. There was a small garden here. It used to be a small garden, but now it was overgrown with weeds and trees, which covered the original building. Lei Xingfeng stood there silently. In fact, he was ecstatic. He knew that this should be the core area. If Jing Zia hadn't led him here, it would have been difficult for him to find this place. Jing Zia ignored Lei Xingfeng and quickly flashed into the dilapidated building. Lei Xingfeng certainly wouldn't be left behind. He followed her in. He saw Jing Zia standing in the middle of the room in a daze. This room was dilapidated. Several tables had collapsed long ago. There were also some bookshelves against the wall. Lei Xingfeng stared at the half-collapsed bookshelves. Because of the stack of black sheets on them, he knew at a glance that it was the Star Python records. Moreover, it was a stack of Star Python records. Jing Zia muttered to herself, Why is it like this? Why? Lei Xingfeng slowly moved. Before he moved to the front of the bookshelves, Jing Zia suddenly turned her head and stared at Lei Xingfeng. In an instant, Lei Xingfeng felt his blood run cold. He hurriedly shouted, "Wait, I have something to say." Jing Zia said coldly, "Say it." Lei Xingfeng said, "This place should have been abandoned long ago. I don't know how many years it has been. You have been staying on the tower and don't know anything. In other words, this place is ownerless. Anyone with the ability can come here." Jing Zia said in surprise, "What?" Seeing her become nervous, Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "Hey, don't be agitated. Don't be agitated. Calm down." However, a strange feeling welled up in his heart. Was this still a puppet? This was a King human, a living human. It actually had feelings. Jing Zia gradually calmed down and said, "Say it. What's going on?" Lei Xingfeng suddenly cried and laughed. He didn't know the story of this place. He said, "Actually, I don't know what's going on. While I came here, this place was already like this." Jing Zia stared at Lei Xingfeng. That gaze could definitely kill. Lei Xingfeng could clearly feel the killing intent contained in it. He hurriedly said, "Well, even if you kill me, it won't change anything." Jing Zia suddenly smiled and said, "Then I'll kill you." Lei Xingfeng was greatly shocked. In an instant, a steel puppet beast appeared in front of him. Boom! After smashing the steel puppet beast with one palm, Jing Zia suddenly found that Lei Xingfeng had disappeared. She quickly circled around the room, then went to the courtyard and ran wildly. However, she still couldn't find Lei Xingfeng. This person had disappeared into thin air. Lei Xingfeng emerged from his home in the mirror realm. Jean Dia had been waiting there for a long time. He said, "How is it?" Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, "That puppet went crazy." Jean Dia was suddenly stunned. He said, "What should we do?" There were still a lot of people outside excavating the ruins. Once the crystal puppet rushed out, it would be terrible. Lei Xingfeng said, "The key is, I entered their core area, and I saw some treasures, but the crystal puppet went crazy." Jean Dia said with a wry smile, "So, we're trapped." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes. Of course, it's not the time to despair. After all, I still have a lot of power. I won't retreat without trying." Jean Dia said, "How powerful is she?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Fast. So fast that I can't react. Unless you think about what to do first, you won't be able to avoid it." Jean Dia said, "Then how should we deal with her?" Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "First, limit her range of movement." "Well, I have an idea. Uncle Jean, don't go out. Wait for me here. If the two of us go out together, I won't be able to react in time." Jean Dia's face showed a trace of worry. He knew the danger and said, "Okay, you have to be careful. If you find something wrong, come back immediately. We'll slowly think of a way." Lei Xingfeng nodded. Then, his figure suddenly disappeared and then reappeared. Jean Dia understood that Lei Xingfeng was using this method to quickly observe the outside. Lei Xingfeng said, "She's not in the room." After saying that, he disappeared again. When he reappeared in the room, the surroundings were silent. Lei Xingfeng didn't hesitate to pounce on the bookshelf. He saw a stack of Star Python records earlier. How could he let go of it? There were more than 10 Star Python records. The Star Python records were very hard, very thin, and could withstand the erosion of time. It was the best recording tool. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to look carefully and directly put the Star Python records into his hidden Luin space. Without hesitation, he released 10 silver and 10 gold-level puppets. Lei Xingfeng commanded them to quickly rush out of the door. He hid behind them and then continuously threw out steel puppets and metal spiders. Lei Xingfeng's plan was very simple. He would use these messy puppets and metal spiders to block Jing Zia's attack path. The appearance of the steel puppets in the courtyard immediately alarmed the chaotic Jing Zia. With a shout, she rushed over. Lei Xingfeng ordered the puppets to hold her back. The silver-level puppets hid behind the steel puppets and began to launch harassing attacks. The gold-level puppets' mission was even simpler. That was to save the steel puppets that were bound to die. At the very least, they wouldn't let the steel puppets shatter immediately. Suddenly, The entire small garden was filled with smoke and dust. It was like a pot of boiling soup. Lei Xingfeng quickly rushed towards the room where the secret door was. He had to leave this place. One must know that Lei Xingfeng's subordinates were all outside. If they were discovered by the crystal puppets, he wouldn't be able to bear the loss. Even if he had to give up all his puppets, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't hesitate to abandon them. Although the steel puppets were extremely hard and had thick skin, they still couldn't withstand a full force attack from Jingzia. Bang! 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 Every punch and kick from Jingzia destroyed a steel puppet. The silver-level puppets quickly moved around, relying on the steel puppets and metal spiders to block them. They didn't dare to fight head-on. Instead, they dodged back and forth and attacked whenever they had the chance. If they couldn't hit their target, they would immediately disperse. The gold-level puppets were the same. Even so, they couldn't stop Jingzia. Lei Xingfeng relied on the numerous puppets to block them, and was about to reach the room where the secret door was teleported. At this time, Jingzia's gaze was fixed on him. "You! Stop!" Lei Xingfeng felt his scalp go numb. He raised his hand and shot out a thick bolt of lightning. Jingzia's body emitted a brilliant light and instantly turned into a transparent crystal. When the lightning struck her body, countless electric arcs flickered and crackled. When the lightning stopped, color returned to her body. She coldly said, "It's useless." However, Lei Xingfeng found that it was useful, because when the lightning struck her body, she stopped moving. Although the lightning couldn't hurt her, it could stop her from moving. This was the greatest effect. Without hesitation, he shot out another bolt of lightning. Lei Xingfeng summoned his Lei Yin and tried to attack with the Chaos Wheel. Lei Xingfeng rarely used the Chaos Wheel. This was because he had a group of puppets to fight. This time, he didn't dare to hold back. The Chaos Wheel slashed out with a bolt of lightning and instantly struck Jingzia's head. Bang! The huge impact sent Jingzia flying. Seeing her fall to the ground, the steel, silver, and gold-level puppets rushed up and crazily pressed on top of her. Lei Xingfeng turned around and rushed to the room. He had to leave through the secret door, or else he would be trapped here. Boom! The metal shards, along with the silver and gold-level mannequins, flew into the air. In an instant, a shadow flashed. Xian Feng had unhesitatingly shot out a bolt of lightning. This was his prediction. As expected, not far away from him, Jingzia appeared, stunned by the lightning. Chapter 394. Lei Xingfeng exerted force in his legs and abruptly retreated. Another group of humanoid beast puppets surrounded her and beat her up. However, Jingzia's defense was too abnormal. Even if they beat her up like this, she wasn't injured at all. However, Lei Xingfeng soon discovered a problem. Originally, Jingzia could shatter a steel humanoid beast with a single punch. If she attacked with all her strength, she could instantly destroy a silver humanoid beast. However, after a few minutes of fierce fighting, she had destroyed more than 30 steel humanoid beasts and 2 silver humanoid beasts. Her attack power had clearly decreased. Lei Xingfeng suddenly realized that this humanoid crystal humanoid beast should have run out of energy. After this fierce battle, most of her energy had been consumed. He understood that Jingzia originally didn't have enough energy. After such a fierce battle, she couldn't launch a more powerful attack with her remaining energy. Overjoyed, Lei Xingfeng released all of his silver and gold humanoid beasts. He didn't want to injure the enemy, but only wanted to consume her remaining energy. Jingzia seemed to have also reacted. She stopped tangling with the humanoid beasts and continuously pounced on Lei Xingfeng. Unfortunately, due to the lack of energy, her originally flickering figure was completely exposed. This gave Lei Xingfeng an opportunity to strike her with lightning from time to time. As long as he could delay her and consume her energy, Jingzia wouldn't be able to get close to Lei Xingfeng. Moreover, Lei Xingfeng could still use the Chaos Wheel. The Chaos Wheel couldn't injure Jingzia, but the huge kinetic energy of the Chaos Wheel could push her away, making it impossible for her to pose a threat to Lei Xingfeng. After another few minutes of fierce fighting, Jing Ziya's weakness was gradually exposed. Her figure became slower and slower, and her attack power became weaker and weaker. This time, Lei Xingfeng even let Jean Dia out. After Jean Dia came out, he saw Jing Ziya hiding in embarrassment. This huge contrast immediately stunned him. After a long while, he said, "What's going on?" Lei Xingfeng released a bolt of lightning and froze Jing Ziya, who was about to move, in place. Then he said, "You've been sleeping in the same place for so many years. When you woke up, you didn't replenish your energy. Of course, you'll become weaker and weaker." Suddenly, Jing Ziya seemed to have recovered a little. She suddenly pounced forward. At this time, Lei Xingfeng was talking to Jean Dia. He was also a little careless. Jean Dia happened to see it, but he knew that he couldn't block it, so he took a step forward and stood directly in front of Lei Xingfeng. With his back to Jing Ziya, his whole body glowed brightly, and he released all his defenses, intending to take Jing Ziya's attack directly. Although Lei Xingfeng's reaction was fast, it was too sudden. At this moment, his heart turned cold. A black shadow rose from Lei Xingfeng's shoulder, followed by a thin bolt of lightning. Jing Ziya froze again. The black bird said proudly, "Want a sneak attack? This bird won't agree." The black bird was smug. It had never helped Lei Xingfeng. This time, it launched a surprise attack. Even if Jing Ziya was frozen in place, it was only a few seconds, but it was enough for Lei Xingfeng to react. A thick bolt of lightning shot out, and then Lei Xingfeng grabbed Jean Dia and quickly retreated. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia broke out in a cold sweat. This was too terrifying. As the saying goes, a centipede dies but never falls down. Moreover, Jing Ziya was not a centipede. This fellow was a very high-level puppet. There was not much difference between it and a human, and its strength was extremely terrifying. If she had enough energy, with Lei Xingfeng's strength, even if he took out all his assets, there was only one way to go, and that was to hide in the mirror world and not come out. Now that there was an opportunity, and the other party's energy was not enough, Lei Xingfeng was not in a hurry to escape. He wanted to subdue this strange crystal puppet very much, especially since this crystal puppet had intelligence and could talk. This was too important. With this, Lei Xingfeng could learn a lot about the forbidden area. Therefore, even if Lei Xingfeng was scared and broke out in a cold sweat, he was not enraged. Instead, he patiently shot out bolts of lightning, and then used the puppet beast to continue consuming the other party's remaining energy. According to Lei Xingfeng's estimation, Jing Ziya would not be able to hold on for long. The puppet beasts advanced dauntlessly. Lei Xingfeng had already relaxed. He just kept shooting out bolts of lightning. The blackbird also joined in the fun from time to time, shooting out extremely thin bolts of lightning. Moreover, every time the blackbird shot out a bolt of lightning, it would cry out and make a sound. Then, a bolt of lightning would fly out. Jing Ziya was beaten into an extremely sorry state. She was completely different from her awe-inspiring appearance at the beginning. Because the last bit of energy left was about to be exhausted, Jing Ziya became more and more powerless. Originally, she could easily do things, but now, she was completely powerless. Jing Ziya was finally unable to continue moving. She could only put the remaining energy on the surface of her body. Otherwise, her defense would be broken. Once it was broken, she knew in her heart that Strongman's attack was enough to shatter her. "Stop! Stop!" Jing Ziya shouted twice in a row. Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He immediately ordered the attack to stop. His purpose was not to shatter the crystal puppet, but to subdue her. He also knew in his heart that once this fellow's energy was exhausted, it was very likely that she would shatter. He was not confident that he could put together such a high-level thing. Jing Ziya said, "You win." Lei Xingfeng was still a little afraid of her. He did not dare to approach her. He said, "Since you have lost, you should be aware that you have to submit to me." Jing Ziya said, "You are too weak. You are not worthy of being my master." She was directly ridiculing him and looking down on him. Lei Xingfeng was a cultivation master who was known as a genius. This was the first time he had been looked down upon. It was not a person who looked down on him, but a puppet who looked down on him. Jean Dia couldn't help but laugh. This was the first time he had seen Lei Xingfeng being defeated. The black bird cawed. It was definitely laughing, but its laughter was different. People who didn't know it wouldn't know that it had just laughed. Lei Xingfeng said lightly, "If you continue to fight, I am sure that you will be destroyed." Jing Zia said, "Nonsense, of course I know." Lei Xingfeng said, "Then surrender. I will not destroy you." Jing Zia said, "You are too weak. If you want to be my master, I will not be able to face anyone." Lei Xingfeng's face was full of black lines. How could a crystal puppet like you have any face? Moreover, she kept saying that he was too weak. This was too demoralizing. Jean Dia could not help but laugh. The black bird cawed. It was him laughing. Jing Zia said, "I can submit to you temporarily. I have the right to leave at any time." Lei Xingfeng said, "Unless you submit to me, otherwise, I will not hesitate to destroy you. You are too strong. You are too big a threat to me." He had no choice. She was not as strong as him. She was like a child holding a gun. She might be able to hurt others, but she might also hurt herself. He did not dare to keep a ticking time bomb by his side. It was really too dangerous. Lei Xingfeng said again, "You have to recognize reality. Your world no longer exists. With your wisdom, it is not difficult to guess that this place has been abandoned. The reason you attacked me was purely to vent your anger. This is meaningless. Since the other party was a puppet of wisdom, perhaps persuasion was a good way." Jing Zia said coldly, I know that my home has been destroyed, but that does not mean that I will submit to you." The blackbird said, "You do not know what is good for you. You might as well be a bird who understands the current situation. Stupid woman." Jing Zia looked at the blackbird carefully and said, "Shut up, talking bird. You have no right to speak here." The blackbird's character of bullying the weak and fearing the strong suddenly broke out. The other party was on the verge of destruction, so it was really not afraid at all. So it began to speak viciously. "A bird is a good bird with flesh and blood. You're just a puppet. You look like a human, a cold puppet, a female puppet. What is there to be proud of? Ga, you are not as real as a bird." Jing Zia was flustered and exasperated. She shouted, "I will kill you." The blackbird said proudly, "Come on, Ga, come on. I don't even care about you." Ga. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia did not speak. It was good for the blackbird to make sarcastic remarks. At least it could make her face reality. Because she had stopped attacking, Jing Zia had slightly calmed down. She stood up shakily, and without hesitation, the blackbird shot out a thin bolt of lightning. In an instant, Jing Zia's but fell to the ground. At this moment, Xian Feng and Jean Dia both understood that Jing Zia had reached the end of her tether, a lamp that had run out of oil. The blackbird continued to say proudly, "What can you do? Ga, what's so great about you? Don't you feel embarrassed?" Bah, bah. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia couldn't help but laugh. This bird-beaut was really a clown. If it annoyed people, it could really make the dead get up. Sure enough, Jing Zia was so angry that she beat the ground repeatedly. She shouted, You are dead." The blackbird turned its little head 45 degrees to look at the sky and said, "You? I don't even care about you." Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia were speechless. "Don't even care about you?" That was really annoying. No one could stand it. The blackbird's poisonous tongue was getting more and more powerful. The blackbird successfully drove Jing Zia crazy. "Okay, I surrender to you." Lei Xingfeng looked at Jing Zia in disbelief. She was confused by the scolding. Of course, Lei Xingfeng was ecstatic. He said, "Okay." Jing Zia continued, "I have a condition." Although Jean Dia didn't get along with the blackbird, he also knew that Jing Zia would definitely do something bad to it. He glanced at the blackbird a little worriedly. Lei Xingfeng said, "What?" Jing Zia simply said, "Give this bird to me." The blackbird was suddenly frightened. It cried, "Ga, wow, you vicious woman." Lei Xingfeng also said simply, "No, beauty is not mine. It just follows me. I have no right to decide where it goes or whether it lives or dies." The blackbird was immediately moved. It combed Lei Xingfeng's hair and said, "Jie, I knew it. You are the best." Jing Zia said, "If I surrender, will I have the same status as it?" She pointed to the blackbird and said. At this time, she was so angry that she couldn't care less about her face. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Of course, at least the same." Jing Zia said, "I surrender. Your name is Bude, right?" Chapter 395. As long as Lei Xingfeng protected it, the blackbird would be extremely bold. Moreover, it treated Lei Xingfeng's shoulder as its nest, so it was not afraid that the crystal doll would bully it. It said smugly, "Of course. Quack. Bird Bude is the name of a bird. Isn't it powerful? Quack, quack." Jing Zia nodded. "If I have a conflict with Bird Bude, as its master, you won't side with me, right?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I won't side with you, but I will see who is more reasonable. I won't allow you to make trouble without reason." Jing Zia said, "Okay, give me the sky divination crystal." As a doll, once it submitted, it would really submit. Unlike humans, it would not lie. Therefore, once it was confirmed that Jing Zia had submitted, Lei Xingfeng immediately relaxed. As for the conflict with the blackbird, Lei Xingfeng was confident that he could resolve it. Lei Xingfeng had just obtained 7 sky divination crystals. He took out one of them, walked in front of Jing Zia, and handed it to her. At this time, he was relieved and believed that Jing Zia, who had submitted, would not harm him. Jing Zia took the sky divination crystal and swallowed it. In an instant, her body gradually became transparent and soon disappeared in front of Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng said in shock, "Invisibility." Jin Dai's mouth was also agape. He also understood that this was the legendary invisibility. If they were to fight, Jing Zia would have sufficient energy. Just this bit of ability was enough to bury all of their people and mannequins. After a moment, Jing Zia reappeared and said, "Yes, this is invisibility. It is one of my instincts. Just now, I didn't have enough energy. Otherwise, you would not be a match for me." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "I admit it." His honesty made Jing Zia feel much better. At this time, Jing Zia's gaze was fixed on the blackbird. The blackbird immediately withered. Without another word, it shrunk its little head and hid it in its wings, not daring to say a word. It was absolutely smart. If it spoke now, it would be a stupid bird. Bird Bude was not stupid, so it immediately began to play dead. Jing Zia sneered and didn't say anything. It could be seen that she really hated Buddha, but she didn't have a chance to vent her anger now. Lei Xingfeng agreed with the blackbird's strategy. This guy was quite cunning. When it saw that something was wrong, it immediately retreated. When it had a poisonous tongue, it definitely looked at people. As long as the other party could not actually threaten it, this guy would definitely be arrogant. But if the situation was not right, it could stay silent all day. The blackbird is good at pulling hatred, but if it doesn't speak, almost everyone will ignore it. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Karam's garden, where do you store the sky divination crystals?" Jing Zia glanced at Lei Xingfeng and said, "You want to rob me?" Lei Xingfeng giggled. "This is not robbery. To us, this is a treasure. We are treasure hunting." Jing Zia said, "I'm only submitting to you. I am not responsible for bringing you to find the sky divination crystals, nor am I responsible for leading you to rob my house." Lei Xingfeng was still not angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "Of course, if you are not willing, I will not force you. But think about it. You rely on the sky divination crystals to maintain your vitality. If the sky divination crystals in my hands are used up, you will have no choice but to fall into a deep sleep again. If you really use up all your energy, I think it will not be good for you. Actually, helping me is helping yourself." Jean Dia said, "We do not know how to make the sky divination crystals." All the sky divination crystals were obtained at great risk. It had to be said that Lei Xingfeng grasped Jing Zia's weakness. She was silent for a long time before saying, "All right, follow me." Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia were overjoyed. What could be more surprising than finding a guide? The two of them immediately followed him. They were really looking forward to it. They returned to the room they came out from. There was a short-distance teleportation door in the room. If an outsider used this door, they could activate it as long as they had energy. However, they could only go to a few fixed points. However, it was different if it was used by the people of Karam's garden. They had other coordinates and could go to places that outsiders could not go. This was also the reason why Lei Xingfeng had spent so much effort to subdue Jingzia. Only she knew the real secret place. There was actually nothing in the ruins outside. With Lei Xingfeng's ability, even if the Karam's garden was opened wide for him to search, he might not be able to find the real core area. It must be known that many of the key areas were not on the surface. Instead, they relied on short-distance teleportation through the secret door. It was very likely that they were extremely deep underground. If one did not know the coordinates, they would not be able to enter at all. Jingzia came to the secret door and fiddled with it for a while. Lei Xingfeng discovered that she was modifying the door. After a while, Jingzia said, "Give me a few yin rings. Don't tell me you don't have them." Lei Xingfeng took out a few yin rings. Jingzia frowned and said, "These won't do." Jingdaya said, "These are yin rings. Why won't they do?" Jingzia said indifferently, "The quality is too low. Do you have any yin rings of better quality?" Lei Xingfeng took out a handful of yin rings. Jingzia examined them carefully. She picked out a yin ring and said, "Do you have any more of these?" These were the ancient yin rings that Lei Xingfeng had obtained during his first treasure hunt. At the time, he had mistaken them for ancient gold rings and had collected quite a few. He immediately took out a few more and said, "Is this enough?" Jingzia said, "It is." "I didn't expect you to have collected yin rings like this. They are much better than the others." As she spoke, she inserted the ancient yin ring into the groove of the door and opened it. Jingzia said, "Follow me and don't wander off. Don't say that I didn't save you when the time comes." Lei Xingfeng and Jingdaya were very obedient. The two of them obediently followed Jingzia into the secret door. Jingzia said, "This is an underground storage room in Karam's garden. It is used to store all kinds of crystals." Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "This kind of crystal? Is this the sky evolution crystal? Are there other crystals?" He very sensitively grasped the information in her words. Jingzia said bluntly, "Ignorant and inexperienced. You don't know anything." Lei Xingfeng was thick-skinned. Hearing this, he laughed and said, "Yes, yes. People from small places have never heard of many things." Huh. This was a small room with a secret door in the middle. There was only a passageway without a door. Jingzia said, "All right, follow me. We will go to the storage room. There were originally guards here, but it seems that there are no more." Lei Xingfeng said, "Are there many people like you in Karam's garden?" Jingzia was silent for a moment, then said, "Very few. In the entire Karam's garden, there are only 5 people like me." Lei Xingfeng said, "Where are they?" Jingzia said impatiently, "How would I know? I don't care where they went." Lei Xingfeng and Jingdaya looked at each other. Both of them had the same guess. Jingzia was probably left behind because she had offended someone. Otherwise, with her intelligence and ability, she would not have been abandoned. Since there were only 5 people like her in Karam's garden, it meant that Jingzia was very rare. Or rather, it was very difficult to create her. After walking along the passageway for a distance, Jingzia quickly slapped the wall. With a bang, a door slid open on the wall. Jingzia glanced at Lei Xingfeng and walked in. This room was very big. There were 10 gold-level humanoid beasts standing inside. When they saw Jingzia enter, they all stood up from the ground and bowed their heads in respect. Jingzia said, "Li Shi, open the storage room." The 10 gold-level humanoid beasts immediately turned around and stood in front of a wall at the back. They all stretched out their hands and pressed against the wall. There was a loud rumbling sound. Lei Xingfeng and Jingdaya watched as the wall moved to the left, revealing a space where many boxes were piled up. Jingzia walked to the pile of golden boxes and casually opened the lid of a box. Lei Xingfeng immediately went forward and saw that there were 4 grooves in the golden box. Each of them was filled with pale golden crystals. These crystals were different from the sky divination crystal. They were hexagonal and as big as a squashed egg. They were shining brightly and were obviously treasures. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is this?" Jing Zia said, "This is the best energy storage crystal. It's called the hexagonal crystal. It's much stronger than the sky divination crystal." As she spoke, she took out a hexagonal crystal and threw it into her mouth. Then, she picked up another one and threw it into her mouth. She picked up the remaining 2 hexagonal crystals and patted them on her chest. Lei Xingfeng watched the 2 hexagonal crystals disappear. However, he was not heartbroken. There was a pile of such golden boxes on the ground, so there must be a lot of hexagonal crystals. Jing Zia said, "There are 3 kinds of energy storage crystals here. The best one is the hexagonal crystal, the second is the Ilum crystal, and the third is the sky divination crystal." Jean Dias said, "What's the use of so many kinds of crystals?" Jing Zia said, "The hexagonal crystal is the central supply of the large-scale restriction. It's the crystal that charges the entire restriction. The Ilum crystal is for personal use. It can be used to replenish energy. Well, you can't use it." Jean Dia asked curiously why. Jing Zia said indifferently, "Your level is too low. Well, you can't use it at all. He still has some potential." She pointed at Lei Xingfeng. Jean Dia nodded and said, "You don't need to tell me." "Well, what level do I need to reach to use it?" Jing Zia said, "I don't know. I'll remind him when he reaches a certain level. Right now, he's too far away." Among the 3 kinds of crystals, the sky divination crystal was the most abundant. There were only about 20 golden boxes. The boxes containing the Ilum crystals were small black boxes. There were 2 small piles, so there were only 50 boxes. However, there was a large pile of sky divination crystals. Lei Xingfeng said, "We actually use the sky divination crystal the most. It's also the most useful." Jing Zia nodded and said, "That is not bad. The heavenly divination crystal is mainly used by strongmen. It can also be used for long-distance teleportation. You're right about that. It is better to collect more." Actually, she could also use the sky divination crystal herself, but if she used the hexagonal crystal, her abilities would be greatly enhanced. This was also the reason why she had eaten 2 hexagonal crystals the moment she came in, and even hid 2 more. If the people of Karam's Garden were still here, Jing Zia would not be qualified to obtain the hexagonal crystal. Unless an important leader agreed, she would not be able to obtain the hexagonal crystal. Even though she had a lot of authority, she still needed to get approval. Chapter 396. Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't know about these rules. Even if he knew, he wouldn't follow them. Even if Jing Zia needed more hexagonal crystals, he would provide them. The crystal puppets were too important. In fact, Lei Xingfeng was very grateful to the blackbird. If it hadn't been for its pestering, he would have had to spend a lot of effort to subdue Jing Zia, and the effect might not have been as good. He had to rely on the blackbird to anger Jing Zia, so he had such a good opportunity. As expected, it brought him great benefits. These crystals were all free. Jing Zia was very satisfied with the 10 hexagonal crystals she received. She paid attention to Lei Xingfeng's expression and saw that he didn't care at all. She didn't know whether he didn't know how precious hexagonal crystals were or he really didn't care. However, she was very satisfied with Lei Xingfeng's attitude. She had a judgment in her heart. This person was not a stingy person. Following the orders of such a person was much better than a stingy guy. At least he wouldn't exploit her and not give her benefits. Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, if you need hexagonal crystals, just ask me. Here's one for you." He was very generous. This was not only because Jing Zia was a high-end martial artist, but also because she was familiar with the era of disappearance and knew a lot of things that he didn't know. He had to treat this kind of person seriously, even if she was just a puppet. Jing Zia was even more satisfied. She nodded and said, "Okay." She was very straightforward and very straightforward. Lei Xingfeng had always had a philosophy that there was no return without effort. Therefore, he was quite lenient with his subordinates. As long as he had something and his subordinates needed something, He would try his best to satisfy them. He was not vague about this at all. Jingzia said, "Do you want these strongmen too?" Lei Xingfeng suddenly smiled. The reward came immediately. He said, "Of course. Do you have any good ideas?" Jingzia said, "I just need to set them up." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you." Jingzia said lightly, "It's no trouble." As he spoke, he stepped forward and commanded the gold-tier puppets to line up. Then, he began to reset the settings. As he did so, he said, "I reckon that when you subdued the Hercules, you completely extracted their energy source before reactivating them." Although Lei Xingfeng didn't understand what the first order was, he had handled it this way in the past. He nodded and said, "Yes." Jingzia said, "That's indeed possible, but you have to drive the strong men personally. They don't have any autonomy, so this is the stupidest method." Lei Xingfeng was immediately speechless. He had no other choice, because he didn't understand it at all. He could only fumble around to undo the restraints of the gold-grade puppet beast, but in the end, he was said to be worthless by Jingzia. Jean Dias said, "It's good that you can use it. We don't understand it at all." After a short while, Jingzia finished setting up. Lei Xingfeng couldn't understand how she had done it, but since she knew how to do it, he would leave the task of collecting puppet beasts to her. Jingzia said, "It's done." The 10 gold-tier puppets came in front of Lei Xingfeng and bowed their heads to salute him. They weren't under his command. Lei Xingfeng said happily, "Very good. That's great. Does this mean that they have the ability to act independently?" Jingzia said, "Yes, you can give them orders and they can carry them out. If the order is not canceled, they will continue to carry it out. For example, they will guard this place. If you give them orders and give them authority, they will carry them out without hesitation until their energy is exhausted." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He ordered the gold-tier puppets to sleep temporarily and then put them into the mirror realm. Jean Dias said excitedly, "With so many assistants of Feng, your strength has improved a lot." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Do you have a place to store cultivation techniques or something like that?" Jingzia said, "Yes." Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. "Can you take us there?" Jingzia shook her head and said, "I can't. I don't have enough authority. I can't enter." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He didn't want to give up. "What will happen if I force my way in?" Jingzia said, "You will be destroyed. You are too weak. You won't be able to survive if you go in. Well, I think there may not be any cultivation techniques you need inside." Lei Xingfeng asked why. Jingzia said, "You are of the thunder attribute? There shouldn't be any cultivation technique of this attribute. Even if there is, it would only be a superficial cultivation technique. Although Karam's Garden is considered a powerful sect, it isn't the most special. I remember that there is a sect that specializes in the lightning attribute. It is very small, but its strength is extremely shocking." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Where is it?" Jingzia said, "They usually don't have a fixed base because they have to chase after thunder and lightning." "Well, let me think." Lei Xingfeng stared at her nervously. After a while, Jingzia said, "I remember a place called the Magnetic Storm Mountain. That is the place where thunder attribute cultivators like to live." "Magnetic Storm Mountain?" Lei Xingfeng asked hopefully. "Where is it? Where is this Magnetic Storm Mountain?" Jingzia said, "It's very far. I don't know how to get there." "Well, it shouldn't be possible in a short time. If you must find it, I can accompany you. But I can't guarantee that I can find it, and it will be very dangerous." Lei Xingfeng said, "No matter how dangerous it is, I have to go." Jingzia nodded and said, "As long as you give the order, I will take you there." Lei Xingfeng said happily, "Thank you very much." Jingzia said indifferently, "You are the master. You make the decision." Jean Dia said, "What other places are there to store treasures?" Jingzia said, "This is the sect's secret storage room for storing crystals. There are other places, but I don't know if there are any crystals." Jean Dia said, "Let's go and take a look. It's best if there are some, but there is no loss if there aren't." Jingzia looked at Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Well, let's go and take a look. It will be best if there are some, but if not, I won't be disappointed." Jingzia said, "Then come with me." It felt good to have someone to lead the way. Through the secret door, they went to several secret rooms hidden deep underground. To Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dai's disappointment, there was nothing in the secret rooms. They cleaned them up and found a few more venerable strongmen. Lei Xingfeng had collected a total of 26 gold-level puppets, which were 26 venerable strongmen. After returning to the surface, Jingzia took Lei Xingfeng to the other two towers to collect 4 venerable strongmen and some sky divination crystals. The people who were released searched the ruins for a few days, but they didn't find anything valuable. In the Karam Garden, there were a few places that Jingzia couldn't enter, and she didn't dare to take Lei Xingfeng there. According to her, those places were very dangerous and important to the sect. Even if Jingzia had high authority, she still couldn't enter. Lei Xingfeng was quite satisfied with this harvest, especially with Jingzia. This harvest was great. Jingzia's strength was one thing, but most importantly, she knew a lot of things about the past. It had been 10 days since they returned to the camp. Lei Xingfeng had been studying the stack of star python records. These weren't cultivation techniques, but all kinds of records. Some were about the terrain, some were about resources, and some were about the sect. Lei Xingfeng studied for a while, but didn't find what he needed. Of course, he wasn't disappointed. He just collected them as information. If he didn't get Jingzia, he might be disappointed, but with Jingzia, this information wasn't very important. Jingzia placed the records in Lei Xingfeng's residence in the Mirror Realm. Jean Dai, Tiger Love, and Mad Eagle accompanied Lei Xingfeng in the camp. Other than eating, the 4 of them took turns to go back to the Mirror Realm. The rest of the time, they were in the camp. On this day, someone came to report that the founder had returned. Lei Xingfeng brought Jean Dai, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love to the camp outside. Wu Yang was sitting on a chair, his face extremely pale. Lei Xingfeng saw him and asked in surprise, "Founder, what's wrong?" It was Lei Xingfeng's first time seeing Wu Yang like this. It was obvious that he was injured. Wu Yang smiled bitterly and said, "I was too impatient. A phone, don't worry. I was unlucky this time. I was trapped in a forbidden area and almost couldn't get out. Fortunately, I brought some medicine. You don't have to worry too much." Lei Xingfeng relaxed a little. Wu Yang was very important to them. Their secret sect depended on Wu Yang. If Wu Yang was in danger, their secret sect would instantly become a third-rate secret sect. They would lose a lot of power. This was something the secret sect couldn't accept. Wu Yang said, "Of course, this trip wasn't without benefits. At least, I found my own way to advance." He smiled with relief. Lei Xingfeng said happily, "Founder, can you advance to Tao Lord?" Wu Yang nodded and said, "Yes, I'm almost done with my preparations. I plan to return to the Dawn Continent." "A phone, do you want to go back with me?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Founder, I still want to stay here. However, I can't be the camp's supervisor. Let senior brother Xi and Jalowin take over." Wu Yang thought for a moment and said, "Do you plan to explore by yourself?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "I want to give it a try." Wu Yang said, "Okay, but you have to promise me that you won't be rash and impatient. Also, you can't go to the forbidden area. You can't handle it there." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, I won't go to the forbidden area. This world is very big. There should be many places that aren't forbidden." Wu Yang said, "It's not just forbidden areas that are dangerous. The wilderness is also very dangerous." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "I have a lot of gold-grade puppets. They're enough to protect me." Wu Yang nodded and said, "It's because you have a lot of gold-grade puppets that I agreed to let you go. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous for you to go to the wilderness. Moreover, no one would come to save you." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, I won't go to the forbidden area. I'll just look for some materials in the wilderness." In fact, he was preparing to look for the magnetic storm mountain range to see if he had a chance to advance. He needed a large amount of natural lightning. Moreover, he had already prepared all the materials for his advancement. Wu Yang said, "I'll be leaving today. Since you don't care about the camp, I'll call your senior brother." Lei Xingfeng agreed. Wu Yang then left the camp and returned to the Dawn Continent through the secret door. 3 days later, Xi and Xiaolun rushed over. He found Lei Xingfeng and complained, "Junior brother, even if you ask your senior brothers and sisters to guard the camp, you can't recommend me to the founder." Chapter 397. Lei Xingfeng giggled and said, "It's really senior brother. Hee, this place is good. It's safe, and we can get a lot of resources." Xi and Xiaolun smiled bitterly and said, "You don't know how lively the camp in the Dawn continent is now. This place is too cold and cheerless." X and Feng spoke, "It's nothing much. I'm only planning to go out for a bit. I'll be back soon. Anyways, we all take turns to guard the camp. This time you came, you won't be next time." Xi and Xiaolun said, "I know. Besides, it's so annoying. I haven't gathered all the materials yet. In the camp in the Dawn continent, many enlightened masters have started trading. I've been searching for the materials I need all this time. Just as I was about to succeed, I was sent here by the founder." Jean Dias said, "This place is not bad. We'll give our small camp to you." Xi and Xiaolun nodded and said, "Okay, it saves me the trouble of building my own camp." Lei Xingfeng led Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love out of the camp. When they reached a place where they could no longer see the camp, Lei Xingfeng quickly released Jing Zia and said, "Where should we go?" Jing Zia carefully observed the surroundings. After a while, she said, This is still Karam Garden. We haven't left at all. Okay, follow me. There's still many dangerous places here. Moreover, with your level, the chances of getting lost here are very high." She directly looked down on them. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, "It's because we're not familiar with this place that we need you to lead the way." Jing Zia nodded. She didn't mean to be sarcastic. She just said it directly. She didn't need to hide her views. She would say whatever she wanted. After all, she wasn't a real person. She was just a puppet with intelligence. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love saw Jing Zia for the first time. Of course, they had heard about her from Jean Dia. The two of them looked at Jing Zia curiously and secretly praised the beauty of this puppet. Jean Dia asked, "How big is the Karam Garden?" Jing Zia said, "It's very big. It's divided into several large areas. I'm curious, how'd you guys get in? I remember that the Karam Garden's defensive restrictions are very powerful. If you're not a true top-notch expert, it's impossible to get in." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is the Karam Garden. Is this the core area?" Jing Zia said, "Not here. The place you went last time is the real core." In fact, she was still puzzled. She couldn't figure out why the people from Karam Garden were no longer around. According to her memories, she had suddenly gone into hibernation. Someone must have ordered her to go into hibernation and abandoned her. Jing Zia continued, "From here, we'll reach the edge. It won't take us half a day to get there." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Can we fly over?" Jing Zia said indifferently, "Flying is forbidden in any forbidden area. If you fly up, the only result is to be shot down." Lei Xingfeng rubbed his nose and said, "All right, let's walk over." Jean Dia asked curiously, "Can you fly?" Jing Zia said, "Nonsense. Do you think I'm a strong man?" The biggest weakness of gold-level humanoid beasts was that they couldn't fly. Although their defense was amazing, their strength was incomparable, and their attack power was also very good, they were all humanoid beasts that moved on the ground. They couldn't fly. Lei Xingfeng said, "What a pity." Jing Zia said, "What's a pity?" She couldn't understand if there was no rhyme or reason. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm talking about gold-level humanoid beasts. Yes, they're the strongmen you mentioned. It would be great if they could fly." Jing Zia said, "If the strongmen could fly, they would consume too much energy. Therefore, none of them can fly. Moreover, the strongmen's range of activity is mostly in forbidden areas. Forbidden areas don't allow flying at all. Even if they have this ability, they won't be able to use it." As they chatted along the way, Jing Zia indeed knew a lot of things. The journey wasn't lonely. Soon, they arrived at the edge of Karam Garden that Jing Zia had mentioned. She said, "From here, we need to—" There's no need. The restriction here has completely disappeared. There was also a very deep crack in the ground here. It was completely different from the crack in the ground that they had seen last time. The crack in the ground here wasn't wide. The widest part was only about 10 meters. Most of the cracks were only a few meters wide. A large number of trees, shrubs, and weeds had already grown. Jingzia looked at it speechlessly. After a long while, she said, "The restriction has been broken for a long time. The self-cultivation mechanism has been completely lost." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What's the self-cultivation mechanism?" Jingzia seemed to be used to Lei Xingfeng's ignorance. She explained, "Large-scale restrictions all have self-cultivation mechanisms. As long as they aren't damaged at all, even if the restriction is temporarily broken, it will gradually repair itself. It's just like an injury. As long as it isn't a fatal wound, it will slowly heal." Xian Feng clicked his tongue inwardly. This thing was too advanced. It could even heal people. This wasn't a human, but a type of restriction. Of course, Xian Feng didn't know anything about restrictions. There were almost no restrictions in the secret sex inheritance. Only a few high-level practitioners could gradually learn and grasp them from the records of the star python in the outer space. And even then, it was a very simple restriction. Lei Xingfeng said, "When we passed through the crack in the ground last time, we were almost in danger. We were blocked by an invisible suction force. Later, we relied on a big tree to pass through." Jingzia said, "This isn't strange. It's a remnant restriction. However, it shouldn't have any destructive power." Lei Xingfeng said, "No wonder. When we passed through the crack in the ground last time, we entered Karam Garden." Jean Dia said, "Will there be any remnant restrictions here?" Jingzia said, "There aren't any here. I can feel it." She walked to the crack in the ground and checked it. Her figure flashed slightly, and she was already on the other side. She said, "Okay, everyone come over. Even if you fly, don't fly more than 2 meters above the ground. It will be dangerous if you reach 3 meters above the ground. Remember." Lei Xingfeng and the other two quickly crossed the crack in the ground. Jingzia said, "This is considered to be out of Karam Garden. If we go out from here, we will soon reach the Hana Plains. If we want to go to the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range, we will have to pass through the Hana Plains." Jean Dia said, "What dangers are there in this plains?" Jingzia pondered for a moment and said, "In the past, there were a few big sects on the Hana Plains. They would send people to protect the entire plains and drive away powerful wild beasts. Now, I don't know. I think our sect isn't the only one that has declined." Lei Xingfeng's eyes lit up. He said, "Can we search for those big sects?" Jingzia said, "Don't even think about it. Those big sects are not simple. I think that all the restrictions in their sects should have been activated. As long as the energy is not exhausted, no one will be able to withstand it. I admit that I can't resist the attacks of the restrictions." Mad Eagle said, "Let's not complicate things. Our goal is to find the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range." Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, Yes, the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range is my goal." Jingzia nodded and said, "Let's avoid the encampments of those sects and cross the Hanta Plains from the wilderness." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and released 4 gold-level beast puppets, one for each of them as guards. As for Jingzia, she didn't need them. Her strength was so high that she didn't need gold-level beast puppets to protect her. Jingzia asked curiously, "Why did you release the strongmen?" Lei Xingfeng blushed slightly and said, "To be guards." Jingzia didn't laugh at Lei Xingfeng. She agreed and said, "That's good. With the strongmen as guards, we can avoid danger at the first moment. However, if we encounter a star beast, we won't have a chance." Lei Xingfeng said, "If we encounter a star beast, as long as we discover it a little bit in advance, we can avoid it." Jingzia revealed a surprised expression. She suddenly reacted and said, "You mean the place I went in and out is yours? It's very similar to the ancient mirror realm." "Yes, it's the ancient mirror realm. You actually have such a heaven-defying treasure, and you dare to use it so openly? I don't know if you're ignorant or just don't care. You'd better be careful. The ancient mirror realm. If you were in our era, you would be dead. If I kill you, the ancient mirror realm will appear. You should have fused with it, right?" Lei Xingfeng was speechless. Was this still a puppet? This level of deduction was really a little scary. There aren't so many powerful people in the current world. You think too much. Lei Xingfeng braced himself and defended himself. Jing Zia shook her head and said, I believe that you are not standing at the top. As long as you are not standing at the top of cultivation, you'd better be careful and conservative. I don't want to change masters. These words were quite vicious. Lei Xingfeng sighed inwardly. He was despised, but he had to admit that Jing Zia was right. There was really a problem with his strength. Jean Dias said, as long as we don't say anything, no one will know. Moreover, a Feng is about to advance. He has prepared everything. What he needs now is a large amount of thunder and lightning. Once he finds this place, his strength will increase by a lot. Jing Zia wasn't being sarcastic. She was worried that with Lei Xingfeng's strength, he wouldn't be able to protect this kind of treasure. She said, yes, you want to go to the magnetic storm mountain range to find a place to advance, right? Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, yes, I want to take a look. If it is a good place to advance, I will be able to advance smoothly. During this time, I will need you to protect me. Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all said, a Feng, don't worry. We will protect you. Jing Zia said bluntly, you will protect him? Forget it. It's better to have a few more strong men. You are too weak and will drag him down. Jean Dia and the other two revealed sad expressions. Jean Dia sighed and said, back then, when I advanced to 9th Ring Sage, no matter what method I used, I really felt like I could walk sideways, like the world was in my hands. Now, Sai, this world is changing too fast. Lei Xingfeng said, don't be sad. I always think that there is still a chance, especially in outer space. I always have a strange feeling that any goal can be achieved. It's just that we haven't found a suitable method. Jean Dia smiled and said, a Feng, you don't need to comfort me. I am just sighing. I'm not really sad. I have long understood. Chapter 398. Jing Zia said, let's go from here. She led the four into a dense forest. Lei Xingfeng said, isn't it better to go from the grass? It's hard to walk in the forest. Moreover, they didn't know what powerful beings were in the forest, especially under the cover of the huge trees. It was very difficult to find them immediately, which made it very dangerous. Jing Zia said, follow me. Lei Xingfeng said helplessly, okay, we'll follow you. Jing Zia's walking speed was extremely fast. Although she was walking, but with a slight sway of her body, she was already a few dozen meters away. Luckily, Xi and Feng's group of four wasn't too slow and could barely keep up. Jean Dia ran with all his might. She's too fast, Mad Eagle said with a smile. Keep up, don't be left behind. After entering the dense forest, Jing Zia's speed slowed down slightly. After all, there were too many trees in the way. Jing Zia stood in front of a stone platform. Under the cover of the trees, if one didn't already know that there was something here, it would be very difficult to find this stone platform. Lei Xingfeng saw the stone platform and couldn't help but be surprised. A Luan spot? There's also an ancient Luan passage here. Jing Zia was obviously a little depressed. She said, it's destroyed. What a pity, we still have to walk. Lei Xingfeng noticed that the Luan spot was broken. He said, can it be repaired? Jing Zia shook her head and said, it's completely damaged, and it hasn't been maintained or used. The passageway is completely ruined and can't be used. Maybe there are still passageways in some places, but this place is completely ruined and we can't use it. Lei Xingfeng, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all had the same thought. The continent they were born in must have some kind of connection with the outer space. Both continents had ancient Luan passages and Luan spots, and the continent they were born in still had some ancient Luan passages that could be used. Jean Dia said, since it's ruined, what should we do? Jing Zia said, go back and walk through the grass. No one complained. Although it was a wasted trip, Jing Zia had good intentions. They retreated and walked along the grassland again. For gold-level puppet beasts, a crystal puppet, and a black bird perched on his shoulder. This strange team traveled swiftly on this ancient land. This land had not been inhabited by humans for too long. Once one left Karam's garden, one could see countless animals and plants. Among them, carnivorous beasts were common. There were also a large number of herbivores, as well as all sorts of strange venomous insects. There were all sorts of reptiles of various sizes. It was a feast for the eyes. Jean Dia lamented. If an ordinary person were to come in, there probably wouldn't be anything left of them. All four of them activated their defenses. Lei Xingfeng's body had a faint layer of lightning flashing around it. Any poisonous insects that came into contact with it, the small ones would immediately turn into green smoke, while the big ones would stiffen and die. His defense was the most tyrannical. As for the four venerated warriors, there were no poisonous insects that came into contact with them. The grassland was beside the forest, and there was a small river. From time to time, they would encounter small swamps. This place was very humid, and from time to time, it would drizzle. Unfortunately, there was no lightning. After a day, when it was time to rest, Lei Xingfeng brought everyone back to the Mirror Realm. Jingxia was full of praise for the Mirror Realm. She said, "No wonder everyone covets the Mirror Realm. It's really too convenient in the wild." After eating in the Mirror Realm, they rested for a night. The next morning, Lei Xingfeng brought everyone back to the original place and continued their journey. After passing through the river, the grassland, and the forest, Lei Xingfeng was not lonely. He held a star python record and carefully recorded the terrain. From time to time, he would mark his discoveries, especially the various glowing mineral deposits. His eyes were different from others, and he could see things that others could not. Along the way, he kept collecting all kinds of precious herbs, which were all transplanted into the Mirror Realm by Lei Xingfeng. There were people in charge of the plantation in the Mirror Realm, and it was up to Lei Xingfeng to collect them bit by bit from the outside world. This was prepared for Lei Xingyao. On this day, Lei Xingfeng and the others passed by a sparse forest. Jingxia suddenly stopped and said, "There's someone here." They had been walking for about 10 days, and they had not even seen a shadow. Suddenly, someone said that there was someone here. Lei Xingfeng immediately became nervous. He knew that if there was someone here, it would definitely be a master, because he knew that many monarchs entered the secret door, and many of them did not return. They were either trapped here or died here. Lei Xingfeng said, "Where is it?" A simple and crude, thatched hut was leaning against a big tree. Jean Dia asked, "There's no one here?" Lei Xingfeng said, "It was built by people." Jean Dia said, "What should we do? Go up and have a look?" Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "No matter what, let's go and have a look. Since we can see it, it's fate." Jingxia did not stop him. She was also very curious. Lei Xingfeng took the lead and said, "Let's go, let's go." This sparse forest was not big, so they could see the thatched house on the edge of the forest in the distance. The group soon arrived at the thatched house. Lei Xingfeng said, "Is there anyone here?" There was silence. There was no sound at all. Jingxia said, "There's no one inside. I guess they've gone out." Lei Xingfeng walked to the thatched house and said, "Is there anyone here?" As he spoke, he walked to the door. He saw a piece of animal skin hanging on the simple door frame. He stretched out his hand to lift the curtain and walked in directly. There was nothing in the room except for a fire pit and some charcoal. It was a very simple fire pit with a few stones. There were also a few steel frames as thick as an arm, which had long been rusted. Lei Xingfeng said, "It seems to have been abandoned. No one has used it recently." There was a strong, musty smell. Lei Xingfeng turned around and walked out. He couldn't stand the smell either. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go. No one has been here for a while." Jingxia suddenly raised her head, her actions immediately attracting the attention of the crowd. They all raised their heads to look. Beside them was a tree with a diameter of 2 meters. Xian Feng also raised his head to look. Seeing something on the branches, he asked, "Is that a person?" Jingxia said, "It's a person wrapped in animal skin." Mad Eagle said, "I'll go up." Tiger Love said, "Be careful." Mad Eagle flew up and arrived at the branch in an instant. He shouted, "It's a person. He's dying." Lei Xingfeng said, "Bring him down." Mad Eagle flew down with the man in his arms. Jean Dia quickly took out a wooden bed. Mad Eagle put the man on the wooden bed. Only then did everyone take a closer look. The man was extremely thin, and his face was covered with a beard. Both his hair and beard were very long, almost covering his face. Jean Dia checked him and said, "He seems to be seriously injured. Tiger, get a bowl of fishman wine." They carefully fed him a bowl of fishman wine. Although most of the wine was spilled, there was still a small portion that went down his throat. After drinking the wine, the man clearly recovered from his near-death state. He snorted and slowly opened his eyes. As if the light was too dazzling, he reluctantly covered his eyes with his hand and mumbled something. However, no one understood what he said. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "Feed him a bowl of meat soup." Jean Dia said, "I'll cook it." Lei Xingfeng didn't go back to the mirror world. As long as there were outsiders around, he would be very careful. Jean Dia took out the oil wood to live. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love went to the forest to collect firewood. Lei Xingfeng took out the black bow he had used a long time ago. He had his eyes on a wild deer. Hunting to Xian Feng was an extremely simple matter. In just a few moments, he had already dragged a wild deer back. He shot an arrow through the deer's head and dragged it back with one hand. Finding a rope, he hung the wild deer on a tree branch and skinned it. The 4 venerable warriors were on guard around. They would not hesitate to kill any beast that tried to approach. Jingzia looked curiously at the busy Lei Xingfeng and asked, "What are you doing?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Eating. What else can we do?" Jingzia didn't have the concept of eating. She ate crystals, so she was very curious. She stood beside Lei Xingfeng and watched him skin the wild deer. Even if she was very strong, even if she was the top puppet in Karm's garden, she had never seen how to deal with prey. He skinned the deer and put it into the mirror world. Then he cut open the deer and threw away the internal organs. He didn't have time to deal with the internal organs. He only took the meat and bones. The meat was roasted, and the bones were chopped to make soup. After a set of procedures, the large wild deer was cut into pieces. Mad Eagle picked up the wooden basin with fresh meat and ran to the river to wash it. Jean Dia set up a large copper pot to boil water. When the water boiled, he put down the chopped bones and a part of the wild deer meat. Lei Xingfeng took out some dried vegetables and threw them into the pot. Jingzia watched with great interest. Although she couldn't eat, her curiosity was satisfied. Lei Xingfeng took out a steel grill and said with a smile, "This is a grill." Jingzia asked, "What is it for?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Barbecue, barbecue." Jingzia's eyes revealed a trace of envy. She had intelligence, but she wasn't human. Of course, she would reveal such emotions. The bone soup took a long time to boil, so Lei Xingfeng and the other 3 barbecued the meat first. The fragrance wafted out, and the person lying on the wooden bed began to moan and groan. No one knew what he was saying, but Lei Xingfeng and the others knew that this person had probably been hungry for a long time and couldn't hold on after smelling the fragrance. However, Lei Xingfeng and the others knew that this person wouldn't die for the time being, so they didn't care and only cared about barbecuing. They were all good at living in the wild, so they each barbecued the meat and ate it happily. Jingzia sat at the side, watching anxiously. Xian Feng had also prepared a plate of fresh meat for the blackbird. After calling it, the blackbird landed and ate the fresh meat, occasionally turning its head to look at Jingzia. Of course, even if it had the guts, it wouldn't dare to be cocky in front of Jingzia, as it knew how powerful this woman was. The fragrance of the barbecued meat and the bones were equally tempting. The man groaned even louder, but no one paid attention to him. Finally, they heard the man's hoarse cry, "Give me some. I'm hungry," Jean Dia said. "It seems that someone is talking." Tiger Love said, "Someone is talking." Jean Dia said, "It's not us, it's that person." What did he say? It was no wonder that they couldn't hear him clearly. This person's voice was not only hoarse, but also unclear. Chapter 399. Mad Eagle ate the roasted wild deer meat in big mouthfuls and held the fishman wine in his hand. As he ate and drank, he said, "Who cares? Let's talk about it after we're full." Jingzia understood clearly and said, "That person woke up. Lei Xingfeng said, "Go and feed him a bowl of meat soup." Jing Zia was suddenly interested. She excitedly filled a bowl of meat soup and went to the man. She reached out and held the back of his neck, saying, "Drink it." "Ow, it's burning me." The man, who seemed to be on the verge of death, suddenly jumped up from the wooden bed and shouted, "Wow, it's hot. It's burning me. Wow." Lei Xingfeng and the others were stunned. Jing Zia stood aside at a loss. She didn't know what was going on. Blackbird screamed and said, "Ga, a moving corpse. I'm scared to death." Jean Dia said, "A bowl of soup can save a person." The man smacked his lips hard and suddenly stopped jumping. A white light flashed on his body, but it was obviously intermittent. Lei Xingfeng judged that the man's injury was quite serious. Then he saw the man walk to the barbecue rack, reach out, and pick up a thin steel rod with big meat. He took a big bite, chewed quickly, and swallowed it with his eyes closed. He let out a long breath and said, "Salty." Then everyone watched the man's performance. He ate the roasted meat in big mouthfuls and chewed crazily. The meat was as big as an adult's fist. This guy chewed at most 2 or 3 times and swallowed it. He ate the meat very quickly. No one knew how long he had been hungry. Blackbird said, "Ga, this guy is so strange." After eating more than a dozen roasted wild deer meat skewers in one breath, the man stared at the meat soup in the big copper pot again. He picked up a wooden spoon, dug up a spoonful of vegetables, and began to eat. He stood in the big copper pot and ate and drank. The wooden spoon went back and forth busy. The man's head was full of sweat, and drops of sweat slid down his eyebrows and beard. The blackbird asked curiously, "God, he's not afraid of the heat anymore?" Jean Dia said, "Idiot, he was in a coma just now and didn't know anything." Of course, he couldn't stand the high-temperature broth. That was just a stimulation. It didn't hurt him. You didn't see him. He's drinking bowl after bowl. The blackbird did not get angry and said, "Caw." Sure enough, no one stopped that person from eating, and no one went up to talk. They all looked at that person with strange expressions on their faces. Finally, that person rubbed his stomach and said in a hoarse voice, "It's not a waste to have a full meal before death. But I'm very curious. Since when can even enlightened beings come to this place? Is there any change?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Senior's injuries may not be without medicine, but Senior seems to have given up long ago." That person stretched out his hand to lift the hair covering his eyes, revealing 2 small eyes. He looked up and down at Lei Xingfeng and said, "I don't know which secret sect disciple you are from. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. A perfected being, well, a 9th ring perfected being, can take out medicine to treat a Lord of Heaven. Maybe you believe it, but I don't believe it." Lei Xingfeng did not talk nonsense. He directly took out a tube of medicine and shook it in front of that person. In an instant, it disappeared in front of that person. He was also afraid that that person would rob him. That person was suddenly stunned. Of course, he knew this medicine. Only a Tao Lord could refine it. He was dumbfounded. He doubted from the bottom of his heart that a perfected being had a medicine to treat a Lord of Heaven. Was this world too crazy, or was this medicine worthless? The blackbird laughed a few times unkindly. It liked to see such a scene the most. Jing Zia watched curiously. She did not understand this. She was intelligent, but she had never lived in such a crowd. Fortunately, she was very smart. She did not speak when she did not understand. She just watched quietly and learned. That person's eyes were very small and a little turbid. At this moment, those eyes suddenly became big and flashed with excitement. No one wanted to die, especially him. He had been alone here for hundreds of years and had used up all the daily necessities he had brought out. He had not even eaten salt, let alone medicine. That person said, "Okay, you win. How can I get this medicine?" Robbery was not allowed. Not to mention his injuries. Even if he was not injured, he was not confident that he could snatch the medicine. It was obvious that this medicine had been stored in the hidden Luin space. Even if he killed Lei Xingfeng, he would not be able to get it. Lei Xingfeng said very seriously, "This medicine is very precious. You should know very well that it requires a lot of precious materials and requires a Tao Lord-level expert to refine it." He had to state the value first before bargaining. This was something he understood very well. No one would give away such a potion for free. Moreover, this person had lived in the starry skies for so many years, so he had a great deal of value to them. That person was obviously stimulated by the medicine. He said, "What are your conditions?" "Say it. As long as I think it's worth it, we'll trade." Lei Xingfeng pondered for a moment. He knew that he could ask for a sky-high price, but it would leave a hidden danger. After all, the other party was an expert at the same level as his ancestor. Once he turned hostile, he basically had no power to resist except to escape. Of course, using Jing Zia to block him might be able to buy some time, but he was not sure about the final result. Without fighting, he did not know who was stronger. Lei Xingfeng said, "Have you been to the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range?" That person said, "Magnetic Storm Mountain Range? Well, you have the thunder attribute." Not bad. A single attribute is enough to advance to a perfected lord. Do you want to advance there? He was right. Lei Xingfeng was quite impressed. He said, "How do you know I want to advance?" The man sighed and said, "That's a big deal. As far as I know, the ancient thunder cultivators advanced in the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range. Well, there's also a forbidden area there. I can't break through it. It's all King thunder, beating people to death." This news made Lei Xingfeng's spirits rise. He said, "Don't you need to use the great stamp to advance to a perfected lord?" That person said indifferently, "People who are not confident and have ordinary aptitude use it. You don't need it. Didn't you decide not to use it? Otherwise, why would you come here?" Lei Xingfeng had long planned to advance by himself. He had communicated with Elder Thunderstorm many times and had received a lot of advice and suggestions. Plus, there were some records of the Star Python record and sufficient materials. Most importantly, he had sacred crystals and the shifting brilliance medicine. These were the reasons why he was confident in advancing. He had to advance no matter what. Jean Diaz said, "Are you familiar with the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range?" That person shook his head and said, "Not really, but I know where it is. I've been there before, but I didn't dare to go deep. Thunderstorm is constant there. I don't have the thunder attribute, so I can't go in, but I can take you there." Xian Feng hesitated for a while, but still passed the medicine to him. That person was a little surprised and said, "No conditions." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Okay, take us to the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range. This is the exchange." That person took the medicine and said, "Then you'll lose out." Lei Xingfeng said, "It doesn't matter. You're a heavenly lord. You've recovered from your injuries with the medicine. If you go back on your words, I can't do anything. So I might as well sell you something good." That person laughed and said, "Smart guy." As he spoke, he drank the medicine and said, "Wait for me for 2 days. By the way, my name is Gao Yi." As he spoke, he went back to his thatched hut. Lei Xingfeng sat still. Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all looked at him. Jing Zia said, "Aren't you afraid that he'll ignore you or kill you after he recovers from his injuries with the medicine?" Lei Xingfeng spread out his hands and said, "If that's the case, I'll accept it. Of course, if he wants to kill me, I can still resist to a certain extent. At least, you can help me." Jean Dia whispered, "Is there a problem?" Lei Xingfeng also whispered, "I don't know. I think he doesn't look like a crazy person. Let's take a gamble. We don't ask for much. He can easily do it. There had to be a reason to kill. Even if it was a lunatic, he would still subconsciously find a reason to kill. This person was not a lunatic. He was just an injured Lord of Heaven." The blackbird flew to Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and muttered, "He can't even eat in peace, quack." Lei Xingfeng realized that he was a little reckless, but he still believed in his judgment. This person shouldn't be a big problem. After all, he didn't ask for anything from him. Moreover, he had saved his life. Most importantly, Gao Yi was familiar with this world. He believed that with his strength and knowledge, he could avoid more dangers. Because of Gao Ye's presence, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to casually return to the Mirror Realm. Instead, he lived in the wilderness. Jean Dia set up a tent, and Jing Zia and the 4 gold-level puppets stood guard outside. 2 days later, Gao Yi walked out and said, "Do you have any clothes?" He had already used up all his daily necessities. Most of his clothes were made of animal skin. Jean Dia took out a few sets of clothes and handed them to him. Gao Yi said, "Wait for me for a moment." He walked to the river to wash up. Everyone waited in the distance. After about an hour, Gao Yi returned. This time, his appearance had changed greatly. He was a very energetic old man. Although his hair and beard were still very long, they were clean and refreshing. He smiled and said, "Although my injuries have healed, I can't change my appearance. Let me tell you, when I first advanced to the Lord of Heaven, I had the appearance of a very handsome young man. Unfortunately, after I was injured, I couldn't recover." Lei Xingfeng said, "You are very handsome now." Gao Yi immediately became happy. He said, "Of course." Everyone looked at each other. This old man was a little narcissistic. However, narcissism was better than arrogance. Lei Xingfeng said, "Shall we set off now?" Gao Yi nodded and said, "No problem." He appeared very calm and also showed his desire to interact with everyone. Everyone set off. Lei Xingfeng asked while walking, Old Master Gao, who injured you?" He originally wanted to call him Gao Yi, but the other party was an expert at the level of a grandmaster. It was too rude to call him that, so he just called him Old Master. Gao Yi didn't care. He said, "I won't say how I was injured. Because I suppressed my injuries and used up all my medicine, after escaping here, my injuries worsened. I originally planned to wait for death here, but I didn't expect to meet you guys. I also didn't expect that you would have medicine that can be used by a Lord of Heaven. I can only say that my luck is extremely good. If I can't die like this old man will definitely advance to the Lord of Tao." Chapter 400. Lei Xingfeng said, "You're already a heaven monarch. Why don't you go back?" Gao Yi said, "I won't go back until I become a Tao monarch. This place is rich in resources, and I can find a lot of things. Why would I go back? There's nothing there, just a bunch of boring people fighting over a little bit of resources. They don't like each other. It's so boring." Gao Yi continued, "There's freedom here. Other than the lack of daily necessities, there's no one to talk to. Life here is very good." Jean Dia said, "Old man, you're very carefree." Gao Yi said, "Of course. There's no need to scheme here. As long as we can deal with the dangers, life here is even better. When I first came here, I was just a true monarch. My strength was weak. Now, if I wasn't injured, I wouldn't have a problem becoming a Tao monarch." Lei Xingfeng and the others were shocked. This person was about to reach the peak of the heaven monarch realm. He was about the same strength as Wu Yang. That was scary. Gao Yi said proudly, "After this crisis, I'm very confident that I can become a Tao monarch. If I can't die, then I really won't die." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Isn't it very dangerous here?" Gao Yi said, "It's definitely dangerous here, but it's not everywhere. As long as I don't go to forbidden areas, don't provoke star beasts, and don't meet any lunatics, there's no danger to me." Mad Eagle said, "Old man, are there many star beasts here?" Gao Yi said, "Who said so? There are very few star beasts. If there were many star beasts here, there wouldn't be so many animals. You must be joking. Star beasts are perverted. There are very few of them, and star beasts have their own areas of activity. Adult star beasts have their own intelligence. They can also go to other continents." Lei Xingfeng realized that Gao Yi liked to talk. Perhaps it was because he hadn't talked to anyone for a long time, so he was very excited. He patiently answered all kinds of questions. Gradually, Gao Yi integrated into this small team. As far as he was concerned, because he stood at the peak of absolute strength, he appeared to be very relaxed. It could be seen that he was in an extremely good mood. In addition, Lei Xingfeng and the others could flatter him. He was also a somewhat narcissistic person, so this feeling was extremely good. Gao Yi said, "There are many types of forbidden areas here. The hardest to enter, and also the most dangerous, are the big forbidden areas. There are many things in there. The people of that era had a very strange trait. They liked to hide things underground, and they used secret doors to communicate." "Oh, right. It looks like you've been to quite a few forbidden areas." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "How did you know?" Gao Yi said, "The 4 gold-grade humanoid beasts should have been obtained from the forbidden area, right?" This thing is not very interesting, and it's very dull. This crystal doll is not bad, but it's very difficult to subdue. I didn't expect you to have one. Jingzia said angrily. Hey, I'm not a crystal doll. I'm Jingzia. Of course, Gao Yi wouldn't argue with a crystal doll. He nodded and said, Oh, so you're called Jingzia? Jingzia originally wanted to argue, but she didn't expect Gao Yi to have no interest in talking to her. He turned to Lei Xingfeng and said with a smile, You can't beat her, right? Lei Xingfeng's face was slightly red as he said, Yes, I can't beat her. She's very powerful. Gao Yi said, That's normal. This thing is extremely difficult to deal with. As long as the crystal in your body isn't exhausted, it's almost impossible to defeat them. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Yes, if it wasn't for the fact that Jing Zia's energy was exhausted, it would have been very difficult for me to obtain her. Old man, are there many of these puppets in the big forbidden area? Gao Yi said, Very few. If you see them, it's best to stay away. Even I can't afford to provoke them. Their ability to dissolve attacks is too strong. Jean Dias said, I don't understand why the people of these forbidden areas would give up on this place. Gao Yi said, This is a mystery that no one knows the answer. Many experts have explored this before, but no one has an answer. Lei Xingfeng said, Maybe we can ask Jingzia. Jingzia said straightforwardly, I don't know. Gao Yi suddenly laughed and said, Interesting, she actually doesn't know either. Jingzia said unhappily, Why should I know? The more she looked at Gao Yi, the more she disliked him. This old man was very annoying, different from Lei Xingfeng. She could feel Gao Yi's disdain for her. Gao Yi looked around and said, Okay, we can fly at a low altitude. There are no forbidden areas in this area. Lei Xingfeng immediately waved his hand and put the 4 gold-level puppets into his hidden Luin space. He then asked, Jingzia, can you keep up with us? The corner of Jingzia's mouth twitched. She said, Of course, you don't have to worry about me. Just fly. Well, don't fly too high. Fly close to the ground. Gao Yi flew about 2 meters above the ground and said, Let's go. Everyone followed closely behind and flew out. Jingzia's body suddenly became transparent and then disappeared. No one knew how she hurried. Once one could fly, their speed was extraordinary. In this world, there were countless traps. Very few people who were not familiar with the road dared to fly. Those who dared to fly casually would have died long ago. After flying for 2 days, Gao Yi landed. He said, Okay, come down from here, go around that mountain, and then fly again. Along the way, Gao Yi sighed. When he went to the magnetic storm mountain range, he didn't leave the coordinates of the secret door. Otherwise, it would have been easy to get there. Now, he had to rush over bit by bit. Along the way, Gao Yi even found an ancient Luin passage that was still passable, saving at least 10 days. When Lei Xingfeng saw the magnetic storm mountain range from afar, he was really excited to the extreme. His first impression was that it was magnificent and incomparably magnificent. Dark clouds shrouded the mountain range, and countless flashes of lightning streaked across the sky. The mountain range in the sky formed 3 layers. The first layer was the dark clouds, the second layer was the lightning, and the third layer was the mountain range. It was incomparably clear and distinct. Gao Yi said, The magnetic storm mountain range is just ahead. That place is extremely abnormal. Even I don't dare to get too close. The rumbling of thunder could be faintly heard. It was continuous and sounded like the beating of a drum. It was urgent and shocking to the soul. Lei Xingfeng looked up at the sky. The sun was shining brightly and the grass was lush. Herds of bison and elk were leisurely moving on the grass. From time to time, he could see wild beasts coming and going. It was a peaceful scenery. However, the magnetic storm mountain range in the distance gave people a completely different feeling. It was an extremely dangerous feeling, especially for cultivators. It was no wonder that Gao Yi didn't want to go there. Gao Yi said, Little guy, our deal is over, right? Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Yes, it's over. I see the magnetic storm mountain range. Gao Yi said, How long will you stay here? Lei Xingfeng said, I don't know. Maybe a long time, maybe only a few dozen days. Gao Yi nodded and said, I'm leaving. I hope everything goes well for you. After he finished speaking, he turned and left without hesitation. In just a moment, he had already disappeared from everyone's sight. Jean Dia said, That's a great bargain. Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, It's already very good. It saved us a lot of time. Jean Dia sighed. The value of that bottle of potion was extremely high. Lei Xingfeng had definitely suffered a great loss by exchanging it like this. However, Lei Xingfeng didn't think so. Although he had suffered a loss on the surface, he had established a relationship with Gao Yi. At least, Gao Yi had a good impression of him. When they met in the future, they would be acquaintances. Besides, Gao Yi was very powerful. No cultivator would dare to ignore such a person. Gao Yi could be considered a potential friend. This was also a kind of networking. As the saying went, getting acquainted with someone, not being an enemy. This was Lei Xingfeng's goal. Jing Zia said, You're only saying this when he's gone. Hypocrite. Jean Dia was speechless. He found that this puppet was just like the blackbird. She didn't give him any face when she spoke. Lei Xingfeng said, I've entered the magnetic storm mountain range. You guys go to the mirror world, right? Mad Eagle said, Okay, we can't help you much by staying by your side. It's better to go back to the mirror world. At least there are still many things to do. Jean Dia and Tiger Love nodded in agreement. There were many things to do in the mirror world. Ishan alone wasn't enough. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, Jing Zia can accompany me. The rest of you can go to the mirror world. As he spoke, he sent Jean Dia and the other two, as well as the 4 gold-level puppets, into the mirror world. Lei Xingfeng said again, Birdbude, you can go too. The black bird grabbed Lei Xingfeng's shoulder tightly and refused repeatedly. No, I'm not going back. I'm going to the magnetic storm mountain range. I want to advance just like you. Jing Zia said coldly. Overconfident, ugly bird. The black bird looked up at the sky and said, I'm not going to give a damn about you. Jing Zia threatened, Don't give me a chance. Otherwise, I'll twist your bird head off. The black bird said, I'm so scared. I'm not going to give a damn about you. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but have a headache. He said, Shut up. Then he ran towards the magnetic storm mountain range. Jing Zia also ran, and the two of them ran in the direction of the magnetic storm mountain range. Along the way, Jing Zia and the blackbird were still bickering. Lei Xingfeng stopped them twice, but it was still useless. He was too lazy to say anything more. Bickering wouldn't kill anyone, so let's fight. Jing Zia said unkindly, It's not easy to enter the magnetic storm mountain range. With your small body, you'll be struck to death by lightning. I believe that you'll become a dead bird. The black bird cackled and said, Stupid woman, can't you see that this bird is of the thunder attribute? This bird plays with thunder every day, so it's fine. But you, stupid woman, be careful not to be struck to death by lightning. This bird won't collect your corpse, quack. Jing Zia was called a stupid woman, but she was not angry. She said, So what if it's of the thunder attribute? It'll still strike you to death. Lei Xingfeng quickened his pace with a headache. A puppet and AF Astra's kingbird were not easy to deal with. After running for half a day, the sky was getting darker and darker. They could already see the dark clouds flashing with lightning above their heads, and the dark mountains gradually became taller. As they approached the magnetic storm mountain range, Lei Xingfeng became more and more excited. Jing Zia and the blackbird also stopped bickering. Even if Jing Zia was a puppet, she could feel the horror of the magnetic storm mountain range. Needless to say, the blackbird's body was trembling slightly. Nature's thunder and lightning had the most powerful deterrent force. The kind of terrifying pressure was incomparable to that of human beings. The magnetic storm mountain range was barren, and it was full of black boulders. When the thunder and lightning struck, countless sparks would fly. Those were the broken stones. When Lei Xingfeng arrived at the foot of the mountain and picked up a stone, he understood that this mountain range was actually a metal mountain. Because of being struck by thunder and lightning all year round, some of the ores had mutated, and there were materials that Lei Xingfeng needed. Chapter 401. Violent magnetic gold, brilliant copper, black porcelain, and so on. Of course, these are the names of the cultivation world. They were things that did not exist in his previous life. They were absolutely good things. Not only could lightning attribute cultivators use them, but metal attribute cultivators also needed them. They were all precious materials for machines. Standing at the foot of the mountain, Lei Xingfeng truly understood the terror of the magnetic storm mountain range. Bolts of lightning struck the mountain one after another. This mountain range was like a huge lightning rod. It was unknown how many lightning bolts were attracted. Within a kilometer of the magnetic storm mountain range, there were no longer any plants or creatures. Kacha! Boom! The sound of thunder suddenly rang out. A huge lightning bolt struck the mountain peak in front of Lei Xingfeng. If Lei Xingfeng was not a cultivator, his eyes would have been blinded by the dazzling light. Thunderstorm instantly shook people to the point of dizziness. Jingzia could not help but take a step back and said, "If this kind of lightning strikes my body, I can't withstand it." The blackbird was also terrified. Although its mouth was fierce, it was not a stupid bird. If this kind of lightning struck it, there would not even be a piece of it left behind. It was too **king terrifying. Although Lei Xingfeng was also shocked to the point that his eyes were dazzled and his body swayed, he still noticed that in addition to the huge lightning bolt that struck the mountain peak, there were also countless small lightning bolts that scattered and struck down. These lightning bolts were what he needed. He said, "I need to go to the bottom of the ravine. Even if there is lightning, it will be easy to withstand. For the time being, I can't go up the mountain, especially not to the top. This mountain peak, if you're not an almighty, you absolutely cannot go up. If you are not an almighty being, you will die." Seeing this kind of lightning, Jingzia also began to feel fear. If she did not have intelligence, such as the gold-level puppet beast, she would definitely not be afraid. If you ordered it to go up the mountain, it would definitely obey the order and not resist the mission for the sake of certain death. However, Jingzia was different. She had intelligence, so she was afraid. The blackbird was even more frightened. After all, it was still a living creature, and its body structure was completely different from Jingzia's. Therefore, it was even more afraid of the power of the big thunderbolt. It kept trembling. Another thunderbolt struck down. Amidst the booming sound, the blackbird was so scared that it kept trembling. "You scared the bird to death." Too scary. "You scared the bird to death. Why are you so scary?" Lei Xingfeng was also afraid, but he was amused by the blackbird. He shook his head and said, "Bird Bud, you should go back to the mirror realm." The blackbird's head was like a chick pecking at rice. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Send the bird over, quick, ga." Lei Xingfeng sent the blackbird into the mirror realm. He glanced at Jingzia and asked, "Are you going back too?" Jingzia said, "No, I won't go back." In fact, Lei Xingfeng didn't want Jingzia to go back either. If she went back, there would be no one to protect her. It was not a good choice to use a gold-level puppet beast, because its whole body was made of metal. It would definitely attract lightning strikes. Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, let's find a way into the mountain." Jingzia said, "Master, have you noticed that the thunderbolts never fall outside? They are all concentrated in the mountain range." Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't call me master. Call me a phone like Uncle Kim and the others. You have wisdom, not strength, so I see you as a companion." Jingzia suddenly fell silent. After a while, she smiled and said, "Well, phone, let's find a way into the mountain range." Her words were obviously not as stiff as before. They walked along the foot of the mountain. The mountain range was extremely long and endless. It was made of huge black stones. After walking for more than an hour, they still couldn't find a way into the mountain range. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, countless thunderbolts were still roaring, making them dizzy. Lei Xingfeng said, "No, let's go back to the mirror realm to rest. Otherwise, I can't stand it." The two returned to their home in the mirror realm. Jean Depan was setting the table and serving the dishes. When he saw Lei Xingfeng appear, he couldn't help laughing. "A phone, sit down and wait for a while. It'll be ready soon." Who is this?" The blackbird suddenly said, "That's a stupid woman, a very, very fierce, stupid woman. Fatty, this bird reminds you, be careful." Jingzia said, "Ugly bird, you're talking nonsense again." The blackbird flapped its wings and flew up, quickly landing on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. This was the place that made it feel at ease. The blackbird cawed twice and wisely didn't continue to bicker. Jean Depan asked, "How is it? Did you go in?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, "No, I didn't dare to climb a mountain. I wanted to find a valley to go in, but it's already dark and I can't go any further. I came back to rest for the night and continue tomorrow." Jean Depan asked curiously, "Is the magnetic storm mountain very powerful? Can you take me to see it?" The blackbird looked up and said, "Fatty, old Fatty, if you go there, you'll die very quickly. Well, I guess you won't even be able to stand there. You'll be scared to death. Fatty is not fun." Jean Depan said with a smile, "Aren't you the same? You were scared back first." The blackbird suddenly fell silent. It was indeed scared back, and it couldn't refute this. Jingzia suddenly understood that the blackbird was not only mean to her, but also to others. Listening to the conversation between the blackbird and the fatty, she knew what kind of bird it was. Suddenly, she ignored the blackbird. The blackbird probably didn't know that this conversation had made Jingzia completely ignore it. Jean Depan's culinary skills had improved. He was about the same as some of the top chefs in Lei Xingfeng's previous life. Especially in this life, there were countless ingredients that were developed by Jean Depan. Sometimes, Lei Xingfeng would even mention some dishes in his memory that were developed by Jean Depan. Therefore, when eating this dish, Lei Xingfeng's family was a group of people who were picky and unruly. Mad Eagle touched his belly and said, "You've gotten fat." Jingzia said, "I'm going back to my room." She didn't like to be in a crowd, and she couldn't stand watching people eat. Even the puppets couldn't stand being hurt. She simply hid in her room. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, we'll leave tomorrow morning." Jingzia turned around and left. She could still hear the proud cawing of the blackbird. A group of people sat up. Lei Xingfeng found that his home was becoming more and more lively. Hong Chun and Yin were also present. Hong Chun was already a 6th ring sage, and Yan's progress was extremely fast, reaching 4th ring sage. Both of them were in charge of some people in the mirror world. They could be considered as practitioners in the management class and had considerable power. There were more than 10 people at the table, eating in full swing. The blackbird also had a plate of fresh meat in front of it. It ate very happily, especially when it saw Jingzia leave. Due to a habit formed when he was young, Lei Xingfeng would have a trace of gratitude every time he ate. The beginning of this life was a bit too difficult, causing him to have a considerable amount of resentment towards food. Hunger was a common occurrence. Now, as long as there was food, he would be quite excited. This was enjoyment. Eating large pieces of meat and drinking large mouthfuls of wine was a very happy feeling. Everyone chatted and laughed while eating in large mouthfuls. The blackbird quickly finished eating. It quickly flew back to Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and flatteringly combed Lei Xingfeng's hair. Lei Xingfeng knew that this fellow must have a request and said, "Say it." "What is it?" The blackbird cawed twice and then said, "Uncle." Lei Xingfeng said, "If you have something to say, say it. Don't flatter me." The blackbird cawed and then continued, "A small request." It stole a glance at Lei Xingfeng's expression and found that there was no change, and then said, "When we reach the place, let the bird out walk the bird." Lei Xingfeng had just drunk a mouthful of fishman wine when he spat it out. Walk the bird? This fellow didn't know that these words would make people collapse. Jean Depang looked innocently at Lei Xingfeng, his head and face full of fishman wine. After a while, he said, "A phone. I wash my face. Thank you." Lei Xingfeng said, "Sorry, old fatty, I didn't mean it." Jean Depang said, "I know it's all this damn bird's fault. I'll roast it and eat it." The black bird was confused and said, "The bird didn't do anything. Don't wrongly accuse the bird." Jean Depang said, "If it weren't for you, Would a phone spit out the wine? The blackbird didn't care about anything except Lei Xingfeng. It said, I don't even care about you. Jean de Pang gnashed his teeth in anger, but he couldn't do anything about it. He got up and said, I'll go wash up. Then he turned around and left. Lei Xingfeng said, besides walking the bird, do you have any other requests? The blackbird continued to comb Qin Haodong's hair and said simply, no, I don't ask for much. It was actually modest. This was not a big deal. As long as Lei Xingfeng could enter the magnetic storm mountain range, avoid the most violent thunder and lightning at the top of the mountain, and find thunder and lightning that could be tolerated, the blackbird could also fish in troubled waters. After all, it was also the thunder attribute. Natural thunder and lightning were quite different from the thunder and lightning that Lei Xingfeng made, and it also wanted to try to absorb some of it. Lei Xingfeng said, okay, I agree. The blackbird immediately combed Lei Xingfeng's hair more vigorously with a fawning look, which made everyone laugh. The next morning, Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia left the Mirror Realm and went to the foot of the magnetic storm mountain range again. Listening to the rumbling explosions, Lei Xingfeng sighed with emotion. This is a paradise for practicing the thunder attribute. It's an absolute treasure land. I've been searching for so many years, but this is the only place I've found. Jing Zia said, that's because you don't know. I believe there are other places like this. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. This world was completely different from his previous one. He didn't understand it at all, but it didn't prevent him from making use of it. They ran all the way along the foot of the mountain. Neither of them dared to fly. Even if there were no attacks from the forbidden area, the thunder and lightning in the sky were no laughing matter. Even Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to try such powerful thunder and lightning. The magnetic storm mountain range was continuous and undulating. The periphery was mostly cliffs and precipitous, but there was no gap to take advantage of. They ran all the way down for half a day. Lei Xingfeng was a little discouraged. What the hell? How can there be no way in? Jing Zia said, there will always be. For her, it didn't matter whether they found the way in or not. After running for more than an hour, Lei Xingfeng finally pointed to the front and said, is that the gap? Chapter 402. Jing Zia said, it seems so. Let's hurry up. With a flash of her body, she had already appeared 100 meters in front of him before disappearing again. This time, she appeared a few hundred meters away. Xi and Feng did not dare delay and immediately sprinted forward. Soon, Lei Xingfeng clearly saw a huge gap. When he came to the gap, Lei Xingfeng was stunned. This gap didn't seem to be formed naturally. It seemed to have been split open. The whole mountain range seemed to have been suddenly cut off, and the cut was very clear. Lei Xingfeng looked at it in a daze. After a long while, he said, what the hell? How is this possible? This mountain range was not an ordinary mountain range of stone and soil. It was almost a metal mountain range. It was too shocking that it had been cut off. Jing Zia was also a little stunned. She said, it should have been cut off by force. I don't know who did it, but it's very powerful. It's not strange. In our era, someone should have had such means. It's just that this is the first time I've seen it. It's really amazing. Lei Xingfeng said, it's fascinating. He was certain that neither the ancestral master nor the so-called Taoist lord could have such terrifying means. It was no wonder that the cultivators of the secret sects would go crazy over some leftovers in the forbidden area. He could not imagine how powerful the people of the forbidden area were. The straight passage was more than 100 meters wide. The ground was full of broken metal pieces of various colors. Moreover, there was no thunder and lightning on this path. All the thunder and lightning had been absorbed by the metal mountain above. Therefore, the two of them were very safe walking on this path. They didn't walk fast. Lei Xingfeng walked forward carefully and said, I don't know what's inside. It's not a forbidden area, is it? He began to let his imagination run wild. It was hard to blame him. Anyone who saw such a horrible scene would inevitably think a lot. Jing Zia couldn't tell, but she was sure of one thing. She said, it can't be a forbidden area. The thunder and lightning are too powerful. Any station has to set up a restriction, and any restriction won't work under this level of thunder and lightning. Lei Xingfeng admitted that Jingzia was right. This was not a good place to build a forbidden area. The passage formed by the slash was about a kilometer long, which was about a kilometer long. The two of them quickly reached the end. The front end became narrower and narrower, and the top was a sharp point. It looked like it had been slashed open by a giant saber. However, how could there be such a giant saber in this world? Lei Xingfeng did not dare to imagine. Since there was no path, Lei Xingfeng asked, "Did you find any other paths along the way?" Jingzia nodded and said, "Yes, there is a crack. Everything else is very smooth." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, let's go back." The two of them walked back. Soon, they found the crack that Jingzia was talking about. The crack was not big, and only one person could pass through. Jingzia understood it very well. She walked in first, and Lei Xingfeng followed her inside. The crack was rugged and difficult to pass through. Fortunately, the two of them were not ordinary people. They gradually went deeper into the mountain range. After walking for more than an hour, the two of them entered a canyon. This canyon was quite strange. It was small at the top and big at the bottom. Its cross-section was like a gourd. Looking up, there was a line of sky. Lightning flashed above, and the whole canyon was buzzing. The dark canyon was pierced by lightning from time to time, and the whole canyon reflected a misty blue brilliance. They continued to walk forward along the canyon. Soon, they saw the throbbing lightning in front of them. Lei Xingfeng knew that they were about to reach the exit. This canyon was quite long, and it was slanted upward. Due to the protection of the cliff, the lightning could not penetrate it. Lei Xingfeng said, "Why do I feel that this place is specially used by someone?" His tone was uncertain. The last part of the path was especially hard to traverse. It was filled with fist-sized pieces of metal, and the slope was getting bigger and bigger. At the cracks, one could see strong flashes of lightning, explosions, and continuous vibrations. Xian Feng forced himself to continue, even if the vibrations made him dizzy. Jingzia stopped and said, "I can't get too close. The energy consumption is increasing." Lei Xingfeng said, "Wait here. I'll go up and take a look." Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Huh? Stairs?" "Yes, stairs. Someone has cleaned this place." Hearing this, Jingzia quickly stepped forward. Sure enough, there were man-made traces on the slope. Stairs appeared in front of her. She said, "I wonder who did it." Lei Xingfeng walked up step by step. Soon, he reached the edge of the exit. At this time, he deeply realized how terrifying the lightning here was. Thick bolts of lightning struck down, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The dazzling light almost blinded his eyes. However, Lei Xingfeng knew that this lightning was far inferior to the lightning at the top of the mountain. Even so, it made him shudder with fear. Countless electric arcs jumped at the exit, one after another. The intervals were sometimes short and sometimes long. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand, indicating for Jingzia to step back. He was a cultivator of the lightning attribute and was naturally immune to lightning. Of course, if the lightning was too strong, he would not be able to quickly resolve it. He would also be injured, but it was much better than people with other attributes. Slowly approaching, Lei Xingfeng narrowed his eyes and looked carefully. Gradually, he could see clearly that he was already halfway up the cliff. There was a platform, and countless lightning bolts were striking the platform. He could see that the ground of the platform was glowing with a metallic light. The uneven ground had all kinds of metallic colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. There were all kinds of colors, and under the lightning strikes, it shone with a dazzling brilliance. It was very beautiful. After observing back and forth for a long time, Lei Xingfeng discovered a secret. At the other end of the platform, there was a doorway without a door. It was so dark that he could not see what was inside. Lei Xingfeng judged that it was definitely an entrance, but there was no door to block it. After thinking for a while, Lei Xingfeng stepped back and came to Jingzia. He said, "There's a doorway at the other end of the platform. I don't know what is inside." Jingzia asked, "Can we rush through it?" Lei Xingfeng said, I haven't tried, so I don't know. But I think we can rush through it. Jingzia said, I can't rush through it. I will stay on the platform. The consequences were very serious. The lightning would freeze her until all her energy was exhausted. The final result was self-evident. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, I will put you into the mirror world and let you out when we get through. Jingzia agreed. Lei Xingfeng put her away and went back to the exit of the platform to find a way to get through. He hit on the side of the exit. It was a world full of electric arcs. However, when they reached Lei Xingfeng, they were absorbed by him. The lightning striking the platform was not continuous, but intermittent, with intervals of about a few seconds to more than 30 seconds. When the lightning struck down continuously, it was extremely shocking, as if it was a drum, the sound of a thunderstorm. This rhythm wasn't much, but it wasn't little either. Xi and Feng carefully looked for the rhythm. Squinting and staring outside, Lei Xingfeng began to pay attention to the lightning striking down. He found a strange phenomenon. An extremely thick bolt of lightning suddenly split into dozens of thinner lightning bolts when it was over 10,000 meters away from the platform. When it was close to the cliff, it split again, and one of them landed on the metal platform in front of him. At first, Lei Xingfeng thought it was a coincidence. However, after observing for several minutes, Lei Xingfeng denied that it was a coincidence. In other words, the lightning striking the metal platform had been weakened in the air. Lei Xingfeng began to suspect that the whole magnetic storm mountain range had been cleaned up by someone. Due to Lei Xingfeng's position, he couldn't see the scene at the edge of the cliff. He could only hide behind the cracks of the platform and observe. He didn't dare to be careless. It was too easy to die here. If it was someone who didn't have the lightning attribute, even if he had the strength of a true monarch or heaven monarch, if he rushed into this thunderstorm, basically not even his bones would be left. He would definitely be blown to smithereens. Just the jumping electric arcs made Lei Xingfeng feel that he was on the verge of leveling up. He had a feeling that he couldn't hold it in anymore. After observing for a moment, he gradually made up his mind. He wanted to rush into the doorway at the other end of the platform. After calculating for a long time, Lei Xingfeng finally grasped an opportunity. He gathered his courage and rushed out, madly running towards the other end of the platform. The short distance of 20 meters made him feel incomparably far. He roared and ran. With Lei Xingfeng's speed and the activation time, 20 meters was at most 2 seconds. The moment he approached the doorway, a bolt of lightning struck down. Boom! Lei Xingfeng threw caution to the wind and rushed headfirst into the doorway. Countless tiny bolts of lightning struck him from behind. After rushing into the doorway, Lei Xingfeng continuously rolled on the ground a few times before turning over and sitting up. With the help of the piercing flashes, he could clearly see this small space. With just a glance, Lei Xingfeng knew that this space at the edge of the platform was artificially excavated. It was 10 meters long and 3 meters wide. This was a long room. The most peculiar thing was that in the middle of the room, there was a pool with a diameter of 1 meter. It wasn't water, but a silver liquid. Moreover, it was emitting a misty green brilliance. Lei Xingfeng felt a sense of familiarity, but he couldn't recall what it was at the moment. This liquid was extremely calm, like a layer of mercury. That round pool was 1 foot above the ground, and the liquid was at the same level as the ground. Lei Xingfeng took a few glances, and his attention was diverted. On the metal wall, Lei Xingfeng saw countless words and diagrams. He didn't know what was used to carve them. Lei Xingfeng walked in front of a wall. With just a glance, he was stunned. He didn't recognize these words. This was different from the words recorded in the Star Python record. When the Star Python record was recorded, one's thoughts had to be integrated into it. Therefore, the reader would be able to smoothly receive the information. Even if the reader didn't recognize the words recorded, they would still be able to understand the recorded content. However, the words carved on the wall didn't have this function. Lei Xingfeng naturally couldn't recognize them, let alone understand them. After being stunned for a moment, Lei Xingfeng suddenly laughed. He waved his hand and released Jingzia. He couldn't find anyone from that era, but he had Jingzia, a puppet with intelligence. She should be able to understand these words. Chapter 403. Jingxia came out and said, "You're here." Lei Xingfeng nodded with a smile. "Yes, I was too scared. It's not difficult to come here." Jingxia said, "It's easy for you but difficult for me." She glanced at the round pool in the middle of the room and exclaimed in surprise, "Thunder liquid plasma? There's such a thing here." "Thunder liquid plasma?" Lei Xingfeng asked, "What's that?" Jingxia said, "You don't know? You're a cultivator of thunder. How can you not know about thunder liquid plasma?" Lei Xingfeng said bluntly, "I don't know." Then he explained, I come from a small place. The cultivators, they're different from those here. It's normal that I don't know about it." In fact, he had come into contact with it before, but he didn't know how important it was or how to use it. Jingxia said, "This is a precious treasure for cultivators of the thunder property. It's an omnipotent treasure. Any cultivator of the thunder property would want to have it. There's so many of them. I don't know how many years they have been accumulating, but they have formed so much that they are about to overflow. Let's not talk about other things this time. Just the thunder liquid plasma alone is enough to make you a big profit." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He was a little excited, but his attention was more focused on the words and pictures on the wall. He said, "What's recorded here? Translate it. I want to know." Jingxia looked at the wall carefully for a long time. Lei Xingfeng stared at her uneasily. This was too important for him. After a long while, Jingxia said, "This is a cultivation method of thunder." Lei Xingfeng jumped up excitedly and said with a smile, "Haha, sure enough, sure enough. It's great." Jingxia rolled her eyes and curled her lips in a very human way. She said, "It can't be translated." Lei Xingfeng's smile suddenly froze on his face. He said in disbelief, "What?" Jingxia didn't speak. Instead, she looked along the wall and said, "It's a fairly complete cultivation method. It's just an elementary one. Do you want it?" Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. "It can't be translated, can it?" Jingxia laughed lightly and said, "You're so stupid." In an instant, she had a flirtatious expression, causing Xian Feng to be dumbstruck. Xian Feng cursed in his heart. "Fuck, I'm being looked down upon by a mannequin. I'm being teased by a mannequin. Why ya?" Swallowing his saliva, Xian Feng spoke. "What do you mean?" Jingxia said, "Give me a record of the star python. Don't tell me you don't have it. I'll translate it for you." Xian Feng hurriedly took out a star python record and gave it to Jingxia. "For you." He thought to himself, "What a smart fellow. Although she's a puppet, her intelligence isn't inferior to a human's." Jingxia took the record of the star python and began to record the words and diagrams on the wall. Although she didn't know how to cultivate the lightning element, she could understand the words on the wall and integrate them into the record of the star python. This way, Lei Xingfeng could understand and learn from it. It was a very simple method, but it was absolutely effective. Soon, Jingxia finished recording. She handed the record of the star python to Lei Xingfeng and said, "This cultivation method should be the cultivation method of our era. It should be different from your cultivation method." Lei Xingfeng took the record of the star python and said, "Let me see what's different." This was an elementary lightning element cultivation method. It didn't mention the level. The cultivation method was similar to Lei Xingfeng's cultivation method. There were also things similar to Lei Yin's and weapon cultivation methods. However, this cultivation method was more refined and required more materials. For 3 consecutive days, Lei Xingfeng was completely immersed in the record of the star python. He didn't eat or sleep. He was completely focused. Jingxia didn't speak either. She stood quietly on the side and waited. Fortunately, she was a puppet and didn't have any human emotions. Of course, she already had a little bit of human emotions. It was just that it wasn't very obvious. Once there was an order, she would do her best to carry it out. Lei Xingfeng was thinking while checking the materials he had. He was pleasantly surprised to find that he had a large amount of materials. He had basically collected all the materials he needed in the record. There was no need to go out and look for them again. A small part of them was locally produced. To be precise, they were the mutated metals produced after lightning strikes. They were all over the place. He just needed to dig them up. 3 days later, Lei Xingfeng put down the record of the star python. He let out a long sigh and said, This cultivation method is really too unique. Should I learn it or not? Jing Zia said, learn whichever is powerful and has the highest potential. What's there to hesitate about? Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, this is an elementary cultivation method. If I succeed, where will I find the intermediate and advanced cultivation methods? Jing Zia said irresponsibly, then you decide. Lei Xingfeng looked at Jing Zia speechlessly. Jing Zia said, it's useless to look at me. I can't make a decision for you. I can only give you advice. What to do is still your business. It has nothing to do with me. Lei Xingfeng knew that Jing Zia was right. He said, you stay here. I'll go back and eat something. I'm too tired. This time, Jing Zia didn't object. She simply said, okay. Then she walked to a corner far away from the door and sat down. She lowered her head and ignored everything around her. Lei Xingfeng quietly disappeared from the room. The house in the mirror realm was always lively. Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, Jean Depan, Ishanel, and the others were all sitting in the yard. When they saw Lei Xingfeng, Jean Depan immediately got up and said, 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. Then he ran to the backyard. He knew that Lei Xingfeng had come back for nothing more than food and sleep. Jean Dia asked with concern, a phone, how was it? Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, I gain a lot, but there are also some problems that make me confused. Mad Eagle said with concern, tell us about it. Maybe we can help. The black bird flew down from the roof and landed on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. It complained, I've been waiting for 3 days. I'm so anxious. Lei Xingfeng said, it's too dangerous. Wait for a while, and I'll take you there. The black bird said, okay, you're the master. You have the final say. It also knew that it couldn't argue. Tiger Love said, a phone. Tell us, what problem can't you solve? Lei Xingfeng told them about the discovery of the thunder plasma and the practice records on the wall. He said, I'm hesitating whether I should practice according to the records on the wall. If I practice according to the records, I'll break away from my current practice. Although my master can't teach me, he can only give me hints occasionally. The thunder attribute was quite rare, so once Lei Xingfeng became a monarch, he would have to find his own way forward. Jean Dia said decisively, there's no need to hesitate. Just practice it. Even if it's only the elementary level, which thunder attribute cultivator can get the complete elementary cultivation method. Mad Eagle said, well, I also think that the things in the forbidden area should be very powerful. Tiger Love said simply, agreed. Ishanel also nodded. Almost everyone agreed that Lei Xingfeng should practice the cultivation method in the forbidden area. Lei Xingfeng finished his meal and went back to his room alone. He took out the star python record and studied it again. This kind of cultivation method was equivalent to overturning his previous path of cultivation. Of course, there are also similar things. According to this cultivation method, his previous practice was quite rough and needed to be completely adjusted. After calculating the steps of cultivation and the use of various materials, Lei Xingfeng finally made up his mind to practice the new cultivation method. After thinking about it, Lei Xingfeng fell asleep. He slept for 2 days to recover his energy. Lei Xingfeng returned to the cave in the magnetic storm mountain range. Jing Zia was still sitting in the corner. When she saw Lei Xingfeng appear, she stood up and said, the metal ores here are useful to me. Can I take some? Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, useful? Of course, you don't have to tell me. Take them if you want. These are all ownerless items. Jing Zia nodded and said, yes. However, I still have to trouble master a phone to help me get them. Most of the metals I need are at the edge of the platform. I can't go over. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, this will take some time. I need to cultivate again. It will probably take some time. Jing Zia sat down again and said, okay. She wasn't in a hurry. After having a large amount of energy reserves, she was quite at ease. Lei Xingfeng took out the star python record again. He wanted to compare the cultivation method recorded in the record with his own cultivation method. In this way, he could find some ideas for cultivation. In fact, the primary cultivation method recorded in the star python record was quite simple. Everything revolved around thunderplasma. This was the most important material and could be said to be the core of this cultivation method. Without thunderplasma, this cultivation method wouldn't work. In other words, if this cultivation method was spread out, even if the person who obtained it was a cultivator of thunder attribute, without thunderplasma, he could only look at it and sigh. He wouldn't be able to cultivate it all. Thunderplasma was the most important medium for cultivation. This was a step closer to Lei Xingfeng's original cultivation method. Lei Xingfeng didn't follow the official path of cultivation. Instead, he followed Elder Thunderstorm's method and directly obtained energy from nature's thunder and lightning. This method had certain benefits, but also many flaws. The most important thing was that even if one wanted to cultivate, they might not necessarily be able to find thunder and lightning. As for the other materials, Lei Xingfeng collected all the materials related to his advancement to monarch. In addition, his attribute was special, so the materials he needed were also quite special. They were very similar to the materials recorded in the Star Python record. In other words, most of the materials he collected could be used. A small portion could be obtained from the magnetic storm mountain range. In particular, all kinds of metals that have been tempered by thunder and lightning, as well as mutated metals, could be found here. As a result, not only did he not lack materials, he even had extra materials. Xi and Feng didn't need to go out and search for them. The materials he had collected all these years were finally put to good use. Xi and Feng was very happy about this. At least it proved that he didn't slack off. If he didn't find and trade for those materials, he would have been at a loss. Lei Xingfeng saw that there were a lot of metal materials in the crack before he came in. They were all splashed out by thunder and lightning when they hit the platform. They were as small as soybeans and as big as eggs. At that time, Lei Xingfeng didn't pick them up because he wanted to rush through the platform and enter the door. Now it was necessary for him to go back. Chapter 404. After crossing the platform once, Lei Xingfeng was already confident. He gave Jing Zia a few instructions and looked for an opportunity to run across the platform again. Rolling and crawling into the crack, Lei Xingfeng muttered to himself, "Holy shit, this lightning is too strong. If I wasn't already familiar with lightning, I would have died on the platform." From the beginning, Lei Xingfeng knew that this platform was actually a training platform. Sooner or later, he would sit on it and receive the baptism of lightning. Now, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to receive the baptism on the platform because he couldn't digest the huge amount of lightning. In other words, he would explode alive because the lightning here didn't seem to stop at all. The interval of a few seconds to a few dozen seconds. When that happened, it would be difficult for him to escape even if he wanted to. He didn't know how this crack was formed. Someone had specially carved out a flight of steps. There were about a dozen steps, and the steps in both sides were filled with metal particles of different sizes. Most of them were splashed from the platform, and some of them were collapsed from the metal walls. Lei Xingfeng began to carefully select all kinds of metals. Many of them were metals that Lei Xingfeng had never seen or heard of before. The experience of his previous life was completely useless, so he could only rely on the records of the Star Python record to identify them. The metals were of different colors, colorful and brilliant. The one that was used the most was a golden metal. This thing wasn't copper or gold, but a type of mutated metal. Because of the memories of his previous life, Lei Xingfeng was puzzled for a while, but he quickly got rid of it. No matter what kind of metal it was, as long as it could be used, it was a good metal. This type of golden metal was relatively small and extremely heavy. It was buried under the piles of metal. Lei Xingfeng had to dig through the piles of metal and find it one by one. It was very time-consuming. Lei Xingfeng arranged a row of wooden boxes on the ground and placed the metal particles into them. They were all materials that he needed. The smallest amount was a purple metal, which was even harder to find. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng's eyes could see different kinds of light. So if he found 10 pieces of golden metal, he could probably get 1 or 2 pieces of purple metal. Lei Xingfeng was the most patient when it came to finding materials. In order to make sure that the materials he collected were not enough for cultivation, Lei Xingfeng collected as many as he could. Furthermore, Jing Zia also needed the metal materials here. What she needed was the gold and green metal. The metal pile that was a few meters tall was quickly reduced. Half of it was metals that Lei Xingfeng did not need, so they were all thrown to the side. These metals were all mixed metals. Lei Xingfeng believed that he could not separate and purify them, or rather, it would take a lot of time and energy to do so, so he directly gave up. Among the metals, the most precious were the metals that had been blasted away by lightning. Among them, there were very few that were absolutely precious. They were repeatedly mentioned in cultivation techniques and were extremely helpful in cultivation. Relying on Lei Xingfeng's unparalleled eyes, these extremely precious metals were all collected without exception. This was a world of metals. There were all kinds of metals here. Lei Xingfeng did not understand why there were so many metals here. There were very few stones, and even if there were, they would be sandwiched between the metals. Lei Xingfeng guessed that this mountain range was probably all made of metal. Someone had laid down a terrifying restriction formation that formed endless lightning and was crazily refining it. He did not know who was so generous. Lei Xingfeng also felt that it was abnormally terrifying. This was a powerful being. The perfected lords, heaven lords, and Tao lords in the secret sects were so weak. He already had a vague idea in his heart. If this group of people had moved away, they would have gone to a place countless times better than here. Otherwise, they would definitely not have left this treasure land. Compared to his hometown, this place was like a bustling city, while his hometown was like a barren wasteland. It was no wonder that so many perfected lords, heavenly lords, and Tao lords would come here to search for treasures. This place was indeed extraordinary. Actually, there were many metal particles at the edge of the platform. They were better and of better quality than here. Unfortunately, he did not dare to stay on the platform, so he could not obtain these materials. After 10 days of work, he went to the mirror realm to rest, eat, and sleep when he was tired. When he woke up, he continued to collect materials. This time, he did not ask for help because he realized that in the eyes of outsiders, the metals here were all the same. It would take a lot of time to differentiate them. He was not in the mood to teach. Even though Lei Xingfeng had reached the 9th ring true body, he still felt exhausted after 10 days of work. It was mainly because of mental exhaustion and the aftereffects of high concentration. Sitting on a pile of metal, Lei Xingfeng was in a daze. During this period of time, he had collected a large amount of metal materials. It was already enough. However, he always liked to collect more, so he did not stop. Until today, he knew that it would be useless to collect more. He glanced around and sighed. Alas, there's no time to waste. There's still a lot. Well, next time I will ask someone to come and empty it directly. Then, he slipped back from the platform. Lei Xingfeng said, I have collected them. He came to Jing Ziya's side and put down a wooden basin full of metal particles. There was no lack of precious materials. He said, they are all yours. How do you use them? He was curious. He had a set of cultivation programs and knew how to use metal materials. However, Jing Ziya was just a puppet. Why did she need so many precious metal materials? Jing Ziya grabbed a handful of metal particles expressionlessly. After checking them for a while, she opened her mouth and ate them. Just like eating fried beans, sounds of kacha-kacha could be heard. Xian Feng felt as if his teeth were about to fall out. This metal was very hard, yet Jing Ziya was able to chew it. How much strength did she have? After eating a handful, she ate another handful of metal particles. Lei Xingfeng just stared blankly. He only felt that his teeth were itching. Jing Ziya stopped and said vaguely, What are you looking at? Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, Is it delicious? Jing Ziya rolled her eyes in a very human-like way and said, How can it taste good? Lei Xingfeng said, Well, I don't think it will be delicious. Jing Ziya said, Nonsense, of course it will be disgusting. It is hard and fishy. Lei Xingfeng was puzzled and asked, Then why are you eating it? Jing Ziya said, I want to upgrade. Of course I will eat it. Lei Xingfeng was secretly surprised. He said, Self-upgrade? Self-renewal? So powerful? Jing Ziya continued to eat. She nodded and said, Well, if there are enough materials, I can improve my strength and level. This plaything was simply heaven-defying. Xi and Feng only felt that he had picked up a treasure. This plaything was much stronger than any silver or gold rank mannequin beast. Not only was it strong, it could even upgrade itself and renew itself. Lei Xingfeng silently took out another basin of metal particles and said, "Is this enough?" Jing Zia said, "Keep it with you first. I don't have a place to store it." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "If you want it, just tell me." Then he put away the wooden basin and said, "I'm going to start cultivating. Help me guard it." Jing Zia said, "No problem. Just cultivate. I don't think anyone will come. Even if they do, they won't be able to cross the platform outside." Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "If someone powerful comes and can temporarily resist the thunder and lightning, you can guard the door. As long as you improve, you will be able to attack twice." Jing Zia agreed and said, "Well, I don't think anyone will be that stupid." Lei Xingfeng sat beside the round pool, which was filled with calm thunder plasma. The records on the wall had explained this thing very clearly, including what to use, what characteristics it had, how to use it, and how to collect it. This made it so that Lei Xingfeng didn't have to fumble around. First of all, Lei Xingfeng didn't have the tools in the records, so he had to make them himself. He already had the materials, and the method of making them was recorded on the wall. As for how to take out the thunder plasma, he needed special tools. Lei Xingfeng naturally had to make them himself. In fact, it wasn't difficult. Jade was enough. There were many small tricks here, and he even had to set up some simple restrictions. This was the first time Lei Xingfeng came into contact with restrictions. It was a very magical thing. Lei Xingfeng used thunder and lightning to refine things, but this time he couldn't use thunder and lightning. According to Lei Xingfeng's understanding, this thing should be an insulator, but it had to be inlaid with some metal. He didn't understand the principle, but it didn't prevent him from imitating it. After tossing and turning for half a day, Lei Xingfeng made the first tool. It was a spoon that looked like a cooking spoon. The front part was made of jade and was inlaid with a metal wire. This metal wire had a specific shape, and it took the most time to make. It had a long wooden handle. This was the first tool to fish out the thunder plasma. Lei Xingfeng muttered, "This is only the first tool, so troublesome." Holding the tool, Lei Xingfeng carefully probed the circular pool. When the spoon dipped into the silver liquid, it set off waves of fluctuations. Countless electric arcs suddenly burst out, surging on the silver surface of the thunder plasma. However, the movement wasn't big. As the spoon dipped deeper, the thunder plasma in the pool gradually calmed down. Lei Xingfeng only took out a little bit of the thunder plasma. This thing was very viscous, and the spoon only had about 3 to 4 drops. Holding the spoon, Lei Xingfeng looked around, wanting to see the power of the thunder plasma. The ground was made of metal, so Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to pour the thunder plasma on the ground. He had already seen that the thunder plasma pool wasn't made of metal, but a strange substance. For the time being, he still didn't know what it was. After thinking for a while, Lei Xingfeng first took out a wooden board and placed it on the ground. Then he took out a steel short spear and placed it on the wooden board. Only then did he carefully pour the thunder plasma onto the short spear. It was just 1 drop of thunder plasma. In an instant, a dazzling light flashed, causing Lei Xingfeng to squint his eyes. As if there were firecrackers exploding, the crackling sound continued to ring out. The entire steel short spear emitted a thick green smoke. Lei Xingfeng smelled a strong metallic smell. The jumping electric arcs flickered, and the crackling sound gradually stopped. A total of 2 drops of thunder plasma were dripped. After the electric arcs and flashes stopped, Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find that the short spear was only left with a thin spear. A large part of the wooden board was also charred, almost burned through. The short spear that was as thick as a duck egg had actually become as thick as a finger. However, it was shining with a silver light, and the metal structure had obviously been changed. Lei Xingfeng's scalp went numb. This was because in the cultivation method, there was a section on drinking thunder plasma. Of course, it had to be processed, and a lot of materials had to be added in before it was drunk. Chapter 405. Lei Xingfeng shuddered at the sight of the short spear's fate. If he drank it, he would probably be burned to death. Even if he didn't die, it would be too terrifying if he turned into a short spear and shrunk a few times. Jing Zia walked over, still chewing on the metal in her mouth. She glanced at the pure steel short spear and curled her lips. Don't experiment. Thunder liquid plasma is extremely rare and precious. This thing is sold in drops. In our time, this was an extremely rare treasure. The annual production was extremely limited. This pool of thunder liquid plasma has been stored for who knows how many years. You're wasting it. Lei Xingfeng forced a smile. I just want to understand the nature of thunder liquid plasma. If I don't experiment, I won't feel anything. Jing Zia said, just follow the records on the wall. This should be the place where the great forbidden area trains its disciples. Lei Xingfeng asked, would there be a lot of people with the thunder attribute at that time? Jing Zia shook her head. This place can not only be used by thunder attribute cultivators. People with other attributes can also use it. However, this should be at the high level. She didn't explain how to use it, and there was no need to explain. Lei Xingfeng simply wouldn't understand. Looking at the few drops of thunder liquid plasma left in the spoon, Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and poured it back. Since Jing Zia said that this thing was extremely precious, Lei Xingfeng also didn't want to waste it. Looking at the pool of thunder liquid plasma, it seemed to be a lot, but Lei Xingfeng knew that it would be consumed very quickly. No one would feel that there was too much good stuff. In particular, thunder liquid plasma was extremely helpful to Lei Xingfeng. He was even more unwilling to waste it. Jing Zia said, this kind of cultivation method should be pretty good, so don't be afraid to drink it. As long as you handle it carefully, there won't be any big problems. Of course, if you don't handle it and just drink it, I reckon that you won't be much better than this short spear, or even worse. Lei Xingfeng said, who would randomly drink this stuff? I can tell that it's something powerful just by looking at it. I reckon that even poison can't compare to it. While eating the metal, Jing Zia walked back to the corner and said, thunder liquid plasma is a good material for extracting metal. It's much better than spiritual fire. Let's try to collect more. Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. How many bottles would he need to refine? One must know that the thunder liquid plasma was stored in a special bottle. It was not something that could be stored in an ordinary bottle. It also needed a simple restriction made of metal to control the thunder liquid plasma. Creating such a bottle would require a lot of materials, and it would also take a lot of time and energy. However, Lei Xingfeng would not refine it for the time being. He planned to cultivate first, and after his cultivation improved, he would consider collecting the thunder liquid plasma. This thing was very important to him, and it was impossible to leave it here. Lei Xingfeng was very lucky that his Lei Yin could still be used. This was because his Lei Yin was refined according to the ancient method. Although it lacked a lot of things, it could be made up for by relying on the new cultivation method. If the Lei Yin cultivated according to the normal method, it would not be able to be used here. It would have to disperse and then condense again, which would take a lot of time and effort. Lei Xingfeng compared the difference between his own cultivation method and the cultivation method found here. He found that there were certain similarities between the two. It was just that the cultivation method found here was more refined, had more methods, and was more powerful after cultivation, especially the use of the thunder liquid plasma, which was used to the extreme. This was something that Lei Xingfeng needed to learn. At this step, Lei Xingfeng was extremely careful. He did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. If he made a mistake here, it would be difficult in the future. Refining a special bottle was very complicated, and it consumed a lot of Lei Xingfeng's energy. This was a relatively important tool. A lot of things required this bottle to refine. This bottle was not big, and was about the same size as a can from his previous life. It also had a simple restriction placed on it. The first step was to use 2 drops of thunder liquid plasma to melt and decompose a few types of metals and some plants. Lei Xingfeng did not understand the principle behind this, but he still did it. He was very careful with the concoction. This was not for eating, but for external use. After the concoction was completed, it was a bottle of golden liquid. If one looked carefully, they would see very fine electric arcs jumping on the golden liquid. They were very subtle. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see them at all. Although Jingxia was a puppet, she was a puppet with intelligence. After so many years, no one knew what kind of mutation she had undergone. In any case, she was becoming more and more like a human. Humans were curious. Therefore, Jingxia also came to Lei Xingfeng's side. However, she was very smart. She did not make a sound and only silently watched Lei Xingfeng refine the bottle of golden liquid until it was completely refined. Jingxia said, "Did you succeed?" Lei Xingfeng observed for a full 3 minutes before saying, "There should be no mistake. All the characteristics match." Jingxia said, "Do we use it now?" Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment and said, "This is the first step. Okay, we should start cultivating now." This step was to rely on the golden liquid to cultivate. This was a process from the outside to the inside, and it needed the guidance of the golden liquid. After putting the bottle on the ground, Lei Xingfeng began to take off his clothes. He only had a pair of shorts on his body. This was the requirement of the cultivation method recorded on the wall. As for Jingxia, Lei Xingfeng directly ignored her. She was not a real person, but a puppet, although she was wearing a woman's skin. Jingxia also ignored her. She was interested in how Lei Xingfeng cultivated, not in his muscles. Lei Xingfeng took out a piece of wood and placed it on the ground. This was necessary. The ground was made of metal, and it would affect his cultivation. In fact, the best cushion should be made of jade. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng didn't have enough materials. He could use wood instead. He had a lot of wood. Back then, he had specially found a lot of special wood, many of which were for Lei Xingyao. Lei Xingyao had the wood attribute, so she needed all kinds of wood to assist her cultivation. After everything was ready, Lei Xingfeng sat down cross-legged. He slowly stretched out a finger and slowly approached the golden liquid in the bottle. Jingxia also became nervous. She stared at Lei Xingfeng's finger. When his finger approached the golden liquid, the liquid in the bottle seemed to be alive before it touched it. It began to boil, and extremely small electric arcs gradually gathered together to form a golden lightning bolt as thin as a toothpick. Lei Xingfeng's finger moved a little closer. When it was about 1 centimeter away, the electric arc hit his finger. In an instant, following the thin electric arc, the golden liquid in the bottle quickly died Lei Xingfeng's finger. Jingxia was shocked to see that the golden liquid in the jar seemed to be alive, climbing up along Xinfeng's fingers to his wrists, then to his elbows, and then to his elbows. Furthermore, it quickly spread, and everywhere it touched was dyed in a dazzling golden color. Lei Xingfeng was also surprised and even a little shocked. This was too magical. He watched the golden liquid spread to the upper part of his body. A numbing feeling came. There was no pain, only numbness and itchiness. After about 10 minutes, the golden liquid in the bottle was used up, and all of it was transferred to Lei Xingfeng's body. He was now like an extra large golden light bulb, shining with golden light. Gradually, the numbness and itchiness went deep into his skin. During this time, Lei Xingfeng couldn't do anything. He could only accept it passively. Lei Xingfeng could feel the yin force in his body circulating rapidly and combining with the golden liquid that had invaded his body. After about 2 hours, the golden light on Lei Xingfeng's body gradually weakened and then disappeared bit by bit. In the end, there was no trace of it at all. Lei Xingfeng stood up. He looked at his arm in confusion and found that his skin was still the same. There was no change. He said, "It doesn't seem to have any effect. What is this?" Jingxia threw a piece of metal into her mouth. It was about the size of a grape. With a crunch, she crushed it. She said, "I remember, you need 3 bottles to have a clear effect. You only have 1 bottle. You're a little anxious." As she spoke, she ate the metal. Lei Xingfeng only felt a toothache. Of course, Lei Xingfeng knew. The main reason was that after using 1 bottle, there was no change at all. This made him a little confused. He said, "Okay, then let's do it again." Lei Xingfeng gradually became familiar with the process of reconfiguring. The speed of the reconfiguration was also much faster. This thing was relatively easy to configure and wasn't very precise. Basically, as long as it was within range, there wouldn't be any mistakes. In a short while, the second bottle of golden liquid was configured. Following the same pattern, Lei Xingfeng once again placed his finger on top of the golden liquid. In an instant, thin electric arcs struck his finger. Very quickly, Lei Xingfeng's body was once again dyed golden. After the second absorption, Lei Xingfeng vaguely felt a change in his body. However, he couldn't tell what the change was for the time being. The originally extremely rich Yin force seemed to have decreased. However, after experiencing it for a while, he felt that it was pure. This was simply unimaginable before. It was like a bottle that was originally filled with water. No matter what, it couldn't be added, not even a drop of water could be added. But now, the feeling was that the water in the bottle had become a viscous liquid. The volume was also much smaller, and it could be added again. Jing Zia asked curiously, "Is there a change?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head first, then nodded. Jing Zia was confused. "Is there a change or not? You're nodding and shaking your head. I don't know what you're trying to say." Lei Xingfeng suddenly smiled and said, "There should be a change, but I can't control this change." He stretched out his hand and gently grasped the ground. Suddenly, his entire palm turned golden. Fine electric arcs jumped on the surface of his skin. He gently and skillfully grasped the ground. In an instant, he grabbed a piece of metal. He felt as if he had grabbed a piece of tofu. Jing Zia was stunned and said, "Amazing." The ground here was extraordinarily hard. It was formed from metal, or even with a chisel, it wouldn't be easy to pry open the ground. Lei Xingfeng just grabbed a piece of metal with a light grasp. Let alone Jing Zia, who was stunned. Even Lei Xingfeng himself was a little scared. How hard was his hand? He had a deep feeling that he didn't use any strength. A trace of joy appeared on his face. Lei Xingfeng said, "This is probably the change." Chapter 406. Jing Zia said, "Let's do it again. What will happen when you absorb this thing for the third time? I'm also very curious." Lei Xingfeng didn't have time to rest or eat. Fortunately, with his current strength and level, it was no problem for him to not eat or drink for several days and nights. Then, he began to mix the golden liquid again. This time, Lei Xingfeng was very proficient. With the experience of mixing it twice, he succeeded for the third time in a very short time. Once again, he stretched out his finger, and the golden electric arc hit his finger. In an instant, the golden liquid covered his entire body. This time, the speed was extremely fast. It only took a few seconds, unlike the first time when the golden liquid spread slowly throughout his body. Lei Xingfeng smiled and continued to sit and absorb passively. Lei Yin began to become restless. It suddenly left his body and hung above his head. Suddenly, a trace of golden light emerged from its body, instantly dyeing the silver Lei Yin golden. Jing Zia took a step back and silently watched the changes. She knew in her heart that Lei Xingfeng would have a real change this time. Lei Xingfeng instantly entered an ethereal state. He completely lost his sense of the outside world, as if he had been locked in a small dark room. He couldn't hear or see anything, and his body couldn't feel anything. It was as if he had lost all his sensory organs. Only his mind was still there, but it was extremely slow. After what seemed like a long time, and also like a moment, Lei Xingfeng suddenly opened his eyes and said, "How long?" Jing Zia said, 3 days. As soon as Lei Xingfeng's voice fell, his stomach sounded like a drum. He said a little embarrassedly, "I'm starving." At this moment, his limbs were sore and his whole body was weak. He said, "Jing Zia, you stay here and guard. I'll go back and eat." Lei Xingfeng quickly put on his clothes and suddenly disappeared. A large group of people surrounded Lei Xingfeng. They saw this guy eating and drinking like crazy. He seemed to have returned to the time when he had just started cultivating. No matter how much he ate, it was not enough. Jean Depan roasted a whole bull on a huge steel rack, slowly rotating it. From time to time, He brushed all kinds of seasonings and grease on it. From time to time, he would cut a large piece of roasted meat and put it on a wooden plate. The waiter would bring it to the table. Lei Xingfeng drank the fishman wine and ate the roasted meat in big mouthfuls. Jean Dia, Feng Ying, Shihu, Ai, Shan, and the others were chatting with Exine Feng at first, but then they just watched him eat. Even they were shocked by the amount of food he was eating. It was too much. A large plate of barbecued meat was finished in a few minutes. Up until now, he had already eaten 7 plates, and that wasn't counting the other food. Feng Ying shook his head. Did Feng not eat anything outside? Jean Dia said probably. Maybe he didn't eat anything. That's why he's so hungry. It's rare to see a Feng eat so much. Exine Feng's hunger was actually due to his training. The golden liquid had changed his body, but this change was gradual. He needed large amounts of food to replenish his body, and with his powerful digestive ability, almost any food that entered his stomach would be quickly digested, causing him to feel like he couldn't be full no matter how much he ate. Fortunately, the mirror world was a production base. As the number of species collected increased, the food here became more and more abundant. Whenever Lei Xingfeng came back, the blackbird would immediately land on his shoulder. The blackbird was also very depressed. During this time, it basically stayed on the roof of Lei Xingfeng's house. It was not its nest. It was used to nesting on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder, but this nest would not take it. The blackbird also did not dare to disturb Lei Xingfeng when he was eating. It just tried to please Lei Xingfeng by combing his hair. For it, this was the best way to flatter him. After eating for 4 hours, Lei Xingfeng did not stop. The most terrifying thing was not the time, but that he had eaten more than half of the bowl. The bowl on the steel frame was only left with a skeleton. All the meat was eaten by Lei Xingfeng. Everyone was stunned. Lei Xingfeng looked calm. They did not see his stomach grow bigger. It was still the same. No one knew where all the meat went. Lei Xingfeng said, "Fatty, split the skeleton and boil it." Fatty Jean said, "There's soup. There's no need to cook it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Do you still have the duck oil sesame seed cake you made? Give me a basin." He did not even need to plate it. He just ordered a basin. Jean Dia said, "A Feng, don't eat until you're full." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, "If only I could eat until I'm full. I feel like I'm not full yet." With a plop, a waiter sat down on the ground. He was shocked by Lei Xingfeng's appetite. It was too scary. Lei Xingfeng laughed awkwardly and said, "It's just this time. In the future, I won't be so hungry." Jean Dia smiled and said, "Okay, then eat. This martial art of yours is really strange. You have to eat a lot after cultivating it. This is the first time I've seen it." Tiger Love laughed and said, "It's a blessing to be able to eat." A large bowl of soup and a large bowl of duck oil sesame seed cakes had been prepared by Jean Depang in advance. The soup had been simmering for an entire day. It was a very thick soup. As for what was inside, no one except Jean Depang knew. The taste was absolutely delicious. Holding the sesame seed cake and the soup, Lei Xingfeng sighed and said, "It's my first time eating like this. It's so good." Ishanel waited until Lei Xingfeng was almost done eating before he began to report the operation of the Mirror Realm. Although he was in charge of the entire Mirror Realm, there were still some things that needed to be reported. Lei Xingfeng casually gave a few instructions and said, "You're in charge of these things. You don't need to report unless there's something special." Ishanel agreed. Lei Xingfeng said, "The principle of the Mirror Realm is fairness. Of course, absolute fairness is impossible. We have to be relatively fair. There are rewards and punishments, and there are no other problems. Also, the next generation of cultivators needs to be taken care of. We still don't have enough cultivators, so we have to pay attention to the recruitment in the future." These were his master's orders. Ishanel would of course carry them out seriously. There weren't many things to do at home. Lei Xingfeng only took a few minutes to settle them. This included the withdrawal of some materials, the distribution of rings, and the planning and construction of a few places. As for the small things, there was no need to disturb Lei Xingfeng. After finishing all this, Lei Xingfeng went back to his room to rest. He slept for another 2 days before returning energetically. Jingzia looked up and saw Lei Xingfeng appear. She said, "It's your fortune to have the mirror realm. You can rest at any time. It's very beneficial for your cultivation." There was no way to rest in this room. Just the continuous sound of thunder was enough to make people feel uneasy. It was very difficult to cultivate, let alone rest. Only a puppet like Jingzia could ignore the frightening sound of thunder. Jingzia said, "The next step is to refine your Leiyin, right?" Lei Xingfeng said, "No, not to refine Leiyin, but to strengthen Leiyin. It requires a lot of structural changes and a lot of materials. Fortunately, I'm well prepared. Hee, I believe it won't be a big problem." Jingzia nodded and said, "Be careful. If you need any help, just let me know." She knew the cultivation process. After all, the cultivation method inscribed on the wall was changed by her. It could be said that Jingzia was Lei Xingfeng's lucky star. Ever since she had been with him, everything had been going smoothly. Moreover, with her help, he had obtained many precious crystals. Lei Xingfeng said, "Not yet. When I need you, I'll call you." There was no need to be polite. He immediately agreed. Lei Xingfeng had refined most of the metal materials and other materials he had obtained in the past. But now, it seemed that this level of refinement was too inferior. After seeing the purification effect of the thunder plasma, Lei Xingfeng knew that his previous methods were not good enough. Of course, Lei Xingfeng had to add his own strength to the thunder plasma as a means of purification. After being cleansed by the golden liquid, his body had already adapted to the thunder plasma. If his body had not been cleansed by the golden liquid, he would not have been able to touch the thunder plasma. If he had touched it by force, the only result would have been to turn into a charred corpse. Then, using thunder plasma to purify things would have been just empty talk. If one simply used thunder plasma to purify things without anyone controlling it, any purified things would eventually be annihilated by the thunder plasma. Lei Xingfeng took out the previously collected metals and placed them on the side. They were all basins of metal particles. First, he needed to purify some materials before he could repair Leiyin. In the past, the procedures for purifying materials were complicated. There were various purification methods for various materials. Of course, the medium was Lei Xingfeng's lightning. But compared to the thunder plasma, this kind of lightning power was not at the same level. The difference between the two was huge. Lei Xingfeng scooped out a spoonful of thunder plasma with a spoon. This time, the amount was slightly larger. When he poured it into the jar, it could almost cover the bottom of the jar. The amount was about 100 drops. Jingzia could not help but say, "Do you need to be so extravagant?" Lei Xingfeng glanced at the round pool. Although he did not know how much thunder plasma was in this pool, the amount was definitely not small. He smiled and said, "It's enough for us to squander." Jingzia shook her head and did not speak. Even in their era, thunder plasma was an extraordinary treasure. She did not expect that someone would be so extravagant as to use it to purify materials. Lei Xingfeng said, "Help me throw the metal particles in." As he spoke, Lei Xingfeng stretched out a finger on each hand and slowly approached the jar. Two thin electric arcs jumped up and directly hit the fingers. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng drew out the thin electric arcs and said, "Now." Jingzia immediately picked up the metal particles and threw them onto the electric arcs. In an instant, the metal particles strangely froze in the air and began to roll under the attack of the two electric arcs. Lei Xingfeng said, "Keep throwing them." Metal particles were thrown in one after another. The big ones were as big as eggs, and the small ones were as small as soybeans. Of course, they were all made of the same material. Soon, a ball of molten metal the size of a basketball was suspended in front of them. It was fixed in the air by the two thin electric arcs. One could imagine the power of the electric arcs. Stimulated by the electric arcs, the ball of molten metal slowly rotated. Scorching green smoke continuously rose from the bottom of the ball. Lei Xingfeng did not use too much power. He only guided the thunder plasma in the jar and relied on this power to purify the metal. Once Lei Yin's primary body was completed, according to the records on the wall, Lei Yin could automatically devour materials. When Lei Yin had devoured enough materials and enough energy, Lei Yin could automatically upgrade. That was to say, the first step had to be done manually. After it became self-operating, Lei Xingfeng did not need to worry about the subsequent upgrades. He only needed to provide materials and energy. It was very advanced. Therefore, when Lei Yin's flickering silver light revealed a trace of gold, Lei Xingfeng finally breathed a sigh of relief. In this short period of time, he had consumed more than a dozen kinds of basic materials, most of which were produced here. Even a basic Lei Yin made from the bones of thunder beasts had its attributes changed. Traces of metal had seeped into it, changing the bones of thunder beasts and improving the quality of Lei Yin. After letting out a long breath, Lei Xingfeng said, "It was very difficult. Fortunately, it went smoothly. There are some small flaws, but they will gradually be perfected in the future." Jing Zia said, "This is a huge source of materials and energy. I don't know how many things it needs to devour to reach the peak." Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "I don't need to worry about that. I only need to be responsible for collecting materials and energy. Now, the best way to replenish energy is thunder plasma, which is much stronger than the crystals we have." Jing Zia said, "This is incomparable. One is liquid thunder, while the other is energy storage crystals. The difference between the two is too big. Thunder plasma is something that can only be encountered by chance in our era." Lei Xingfeng said, "Hee hee, you didn't expect that there would be a pool here, right? Why didn't anyone collect it back then?" Jing Zia said, "It's very simple. After they left, they gathered together again. Do you think that the thunder and lightning outside struck for nothing? When the thunder and lightning struck, a small part of its energy should have been converted into thunder plasma. If the thunder plasma here is still not collected by anyone, perhaps it will overflow after thousands of years. At that time, the whole room will probably be destroyed." Lei Xingfeng admitted this point. Thunder plasma was really too overbearing. If the amount was small, it wouldn't corrode metal, but if the amount was large enough, its characteristics would simply be able to melt everything. When using it, one absolutely had to be careful. However, there was no need to worry too much about using Lei Yin to absorb it. Lei Xingfeng wouldn't directly throw Lei Yin into the thunder plasma pool. That wasn't for charging, but for destroying Lei Yin. As long as Lei Yin was suspended above the pool of thunder plasma, Lei Yin would automatically absorb the thunder plasma until Lei Yin couldn't absorb it anymore. Then he would add materials, forming a cycle that would allow Lei Yin to grow on its own. Lei Xingfeng was going to do this experiment now. Jing Zia was also very curious. Even in her era, thunder cultivators were extremely rare, and most of them were incomparably mysterious. They were strictly forbidden to provoke in the major forbidden areas. However, because thunder cultivators were extremely rare, even if they were incomparably powerful, they wouldn't pose a big threat. This was different from the thousands of thunder cultivators in the major forbidden areas. Even if they were top experts, it would still be very difficult for dozens of thunder cultivators to fight against the major forbidden areas. However, cultivators of the thunder element were extremely powerful. Once the people of the Forbidden Land left the protection of the Forbidden Land, they would be in great danger if they encountered cultivators of the thunder element. This was also the reason why people of the Forbidden Land rarely provoked cultivators of the thunder element. Lei Yin slowly suspended above the pool of thunder plasma and descended bit by bit. When he was about 1 foot above the pool surface, Lei Yin hung there motionlessly. A 1-foot-long electric arc leaped up and instantly sank into Lei Yin's body. Because Lei Xingfeng and Lei Yin had already become one, he felt the same as Lei Yin. That enormous energy made his whole body tremble, and he couldn't help but tremble violently. He was only 1 meter away from Lei Yin. Jing Zia saw a strange scene. Lei Xingfeng was standing beside the pool, and Lei Yin was suspended above the pool of thunder plasma. A 1-foot-long electric arc was connected to Lei Yin, and an enormous amount of energy was being continuously absorbed by Lei Yin. Then, countless fine electric arcs were emitted from Lei Yin, connecting with Lei Xingfeng's body. The sizzling sound even covered the sound of thunder outside. Lei Xingfeng's long hair began to stand up, and his head became incomparably huge. His body was trembling like a withered leaf in the wind, and he was really shivering. That fine electric arc was rapidly changing Lei Xingfeng's body. This was a strengthening process. Because of the golden liquid strengthening his body, Lei Xingfeng could withstand this degree of strengthening. Let alone a cultivator, even a thunder cultivator wouldn't be able to go through this first process. This kind of fine electric arc could directly melt a person. When the fine electric arc hit Lei Xingfeng's body, everything on Lei Xingfeng's body was turned to ashes, and his body was completely naked. Lei Xingfeng wasn't thin. If he had this kind of body in his previous life, he would probably wake up laughing in his dreams. This was a standard body type, and his muscles weren't exaggerated. They were very soft, but could be seen that they contained explosive power, especially his six-pack abs. Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't care about his body at all. He was shaking so hard that his head was dizzy, and it was very difficult for him to control his body. This was a passive, strengthening process, and it wasn't something he could control. Jing Zia looked at Lei Xingfeng in amusement. She knew that Lei Xingfeng was not in any danger. Lei Yin and Lei Xingfeng were almost one. As long as Lei Yin did not explode, Lei Xingfeng would not be injured. However, the way he was shaking was really funny. The most peculiar thing was that all the muscles in Lei Xingfeng's body were twitching nonstop. Of course, she did not have any feelings for Lei Xingfeng at all. She was a puppet, not a human, so she did not feel like a woman. Xian Feng saw the strange smile on the corner of Jing Zia's mouth. He didn't know that it was because of his ugly shaking. He thought that she was laughing at his nakedness. He said, "You laugh at what? What the fuck? Numb me to death." Jing Zia immediately smiled and said, "It tastes good, doesn't it?" "Hee hee," she said sarcastically. Lei Xingfeng said, Go away." Jing Zia held her chin and gloated. She said, "I can't leave. I have to be responsible for your safety." Lei Xingfeng said helplessly, Don't laugh." Jing Zia immediately put on a straight face, showing an "I'm not laughing" expression. Xian Feng decided not to continue arguing with Jing Zia. Now was not the time. His mind was almost completely blank. Even his words were spoken subconsciously, without any thought. After shaking for a whole day, the empty Lei Yin was finally full of energy. There was almost no visible change in the entire thunder plasma pool. Lei Xingfeng estimated that he had used 100 drops of thunder plasma to fill up Lei Yin. It could be seen that Lei Yin was not strong enough. The moment Lei Yin was reabsorbed into his body, Jing Zia couldn't help but take a step back. At this time, Lei Xingfeng was as majestic as a mountain. His momentum was incomparably tyrannical. Jing Zia said, "Quickly withdraw your power." Lei Xingfeng slowly sat down and tried to let his body adapt to Lei Yin. Gradually, the deterrent force began to disappear. Soon, Lei Xingfeng was completely recovered. He shook his head hard, patted his forehead with his hand, and said, "Amazing. It's incredible." When he had completely absorbed Lei Yin, he immediately knew that his strength had definitely improved by a large margin. He had just started practicing, and he had already achieved such results. Once he finished practicing the cultivation methods recorded on the wall, he didn't know how much his strength would increase. Once Lei Yin succeeded, Lei Xingfeng would have already won half of the battle, because Lei Yin was the foundation. It was like building a house. Once the foundation was laid, it wouldn't be a big problem to build the house on top. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.